different directions you could go in.
Don't hit snooze. Hit play. The Rob Brown Show. Now morning 6 to 10 on The Fan.
The Fan Upstate. Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate.
Hey, Alexa, Google, or Siri. Play 97 The Fan Upstate.
Hey.
Upstate.
WYRB Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of the Upstate Fan.
Upstate.
And Odyssey Sports Station. Ready? Let's go. From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start.
Latched on? Are you kidding me? Is that the word that we used last week in the police report was latched on? Latched on to me seems like whoever is doing the latching has all fours on the car. They are all in, they're knee deep, but no, the word latched on might have been a little bit of a stretch. The term latched on might have been just a little too much. What do I mean by that? What the heck am I talking about? Well, as you know, we talked about it a lot last week. Scotty Scheffler was thrown in the clink for trying to get into the golf course, but there was some video released today. And when you watch this video, by the way, that you can see on my Twitter page at the Cole Bryson. I just don't know if we can use the term latched on. I mean, the video is not the highest of quality. It's not front and center. It is a little bit away from the camera. I would say probably 30 to 40 yards away from the camera. But this officer was definitely not latched on to Scotty Scheffler. So new video out. You can see it again on my Twitter at the Cole Bryson. And not only is there new video out, the officer is being punished. He's being reprimanded, if you will. Well, what did the officer do? I'll tell you what the officer didn't do. The officer didn't have his body cam on. So the officer, is being disciplined for his arrest last week with Scotty Scheffler. I don't know if he just didn't have the body cam on or if it was under the yellow jumpsuit that he was wearing. Okay, maybe I shouldn't use the term jumpsuit. Scotty was the one wearing the jumpsuit, not the police officer. Okay, I get it. Fair point. However, it was pouring down rain. There was no body cam. There is no body cam footage. And the footage that's been released definitely isn't showing the officer latched onto the car. You can see the officer in the video that I'm talking about. You can see the officer running up beside the car. However, the latching might be a little bit of a stretch. We'll get back to that. I'm Cole Bryson. He's Diesel. This is Wire to Wire. Diesel, welcome in. There was no latching from what I saw. Have you seen the new video yet?
I am efforting to pull it up as we speak, Cole.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I am trying to find this video. I mean, is anyone shocked that we're hearing a story of perhaps a heavy-handed abuse of power, maybe overcharging of the situation in Louisville? I mean, it's not really a surprise, right?
Sadly, it's not. It's not. And we'll get back into this topic because it is a very interesting video.
Yeah, that was my big question, when before we had seen this footage, Cole, was like, what actually happened with this police officer? They say that he latched on. They say that he was dragged 10 yards. They say that he scraped his wrist and had to go to the hospital because he scraped his wrist. I mean, it just seems a little aggressive to use some of those terms.
Latched on.
And hey, like, I give a lot of people credit, Cole, that they didn't run with this and they didn't, the entire news media didn't grab a hold of this and say things like Scotty's a terrible person and Scotty was, clearly, negligent or breaking the law or whatever the stories could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that we didn't go there.
Sure.
I do wonder how much of us not going there as a country had to do with Scotty Scheffler being a white dude. It seems like that, sometimes is part of the situation. But
surely not, right?
Yeah,
surely
so I'm
not.
trying to find this footage here inside.
I'll send it to you if you can.
Yeah, I've got your link here, but it's showing me a press conference video of the officer talking about it.
Here, I'll send you something new so you can see it. And again, for those listening that just tuned in, we're talking about the new video that was released with the Scotty Scheffler incident. It wasn't the best video. It wasn't the highest quality. The camera, it almost looks like it's a surveillance camera that is.
Okay, I've got it here.
You got it now?
Yeah, I've got the footage there that starts with the buses on the left-hand side. Is this the footage we're talking about?
Let's see. The buses. Yeah. Like that right there.
That's not the footage that I have.
Different footage. You might have different footage.
Yeah.
You might have different footage. I did email it to you just now, by the way. That way you can see it. But
that way we're looking at the same video.
Yeah, if you the Tolos, you the texters, the listeners, if you have not seen it yet, it is quite fascinating. Let us know your thoughts. 71307. Shane on the stream says, I think Scotty's reputation benefited him in regards to the media not running wild with it. Very good point, Shane. I would agree with that. And they should, right? Like, you are innocent until proven guilty. And I do think the media, for the most part, treated this the right way.
Okay, yeah, I'm seeing this footage. We see Scotty's SUV pull up, and it appears to me, the officer runs over to stand right at Scotty's left front tire.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost looks like he took a flashlight or a baton of some kind and tried to smash Scotty's window. Maybe I'm misinterpreting what I'm seeing here.
Well, it was a little bit more aggressive from the officer's part than I thought it would be. But it's fascinating, man. It really is. It really is. Again, it's not body cam. It's not the highest quality. It is a long ways away. I understand that, it's a 30 to 40 yard reach and cameras at that distance, they are hard to, especially when
you would know
in.
a thing or two about security cameras, Cole.
I would. And listen, I know that when you try to zoom in on something that far away, it's hard. It really is. And it makes it difficult. So even high quality cameras, when you zoom in that far away, it's tough.
I got Scotty hanging out of the car window. Looks like this is where he maybe is potentially trying to show off his credentials to the officer.
Yeah. That's tough, man. That's tough on the cop.
Did I miss something?
No.
Did I miss
the latching on? Maybe.
I saw a cop grab the door handle.
Yeah, that's
but
latched on.
I didn't see the supposed he dragged the guy across the ground.
I didn't see that either.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that even remotely at all.
It is wire to wire right here on the Fan Upstate. Got a little college football for you, Diesel. As I like this topic a lot. You brought this to the table, and it is college football pertaining to South Carolina programs.
Yeah,
right?
We got 3 FBS programs in the state of South Carolina. Cole, like, compare that to what there is in Florida, where there's 5, 6,
or Texas,
or Texas, or North Carolina. North Carolina has a ton of FBS playing schools in it. South Carolina, though, only has 3. I think Missouri is about to get their second, as Missouri State is moving up into the FBS as a member of Conference USA. But Cole, I wanted to look at our 3 FBS programs in the state of South Carolina and do a little ceiling floor.
I like it.
How about it? We look at where they could be, best case scenario, worst case scenario for these 3 FBS programs in the state. And see if you have any pushback on my thoughts, so see what your thoughts are and see what the Tolos' thoughts are. So how about that? You Tolos, we're going to give you our ceilings and floors for our 3 teams, FBS playing teams in the state of South Carolina. 71307. You can text in, start your text with keyword fan, and tell us where we're right or where we are wrong.
By the way, Diesel, Texas has 12.
12.
That is
Unbelievable.
Jeez.
I mean, imagine being in Texas and having to deal with that law that's proposed in the state of North Carolina that says NC State of North Carolina must, by law, number 1, play each other every year, and number 2, play one of App State, Charlotte, or East Carolina, the other 3 FBS playing schools in the state, every 6 years in a home and home. So, Cole, this is well, let's start with Clemson here. Since Clemson won the game last year, they get to go first. 2023, Clemson was 9-4, 4-4 in ACC play. Not good. Not good. Those of you Clemson fans who keep saying everything's going to be okay. We trust in Dabo. We believe in Dabo. Yeah, 4-4. Have you already forgotten? Have you already forgotten just how low you sank last year? This ain't the SEC, man. Going 4-4 in the ACC means you suck. Okay, going 4-4 in the SEC means you're right in the middle. Being 4-4 in ACC play, especially when you're Clemson, means you suck. So, looking at the ceiling, Cole, for the 2024 Clemson Tigers, I see the ceiling as 11-1. I don't see a single game on that schedule outside of Georgia that is not a winnable game that they should not be favored in. A lot of things, have changed at Florida State. Yeah, NC State is always that up and down kind of team. But I see them as having an 11-1 regular season with a loss to Georgia, which would see an ACC title appearance and possibly a victory and a CFP berth. That is my ceiling for Clemson, a CFP berth.
So I want to be clear, not only for my stance, Diesel, so I can give you my ceiling, but for the listeners, the Tolos as well. That stands for turn it on, leave it on. When we say ceiling, we mean like realistic, yet the best you can be, right? Not obviously, a lot of people would say ceiling's 12-0, but you still have a little bit of realistic expectations when you say ceiling, right? So you do, when we're looking at the floor and the ceiling, you do kind of look at this and say, okay, what's the ceiling? What's the best they could be?
Yeah,
but you have to look at realistic expectations.
If we said 12, I mean, technically everybody's ceiling is 12-0 regular season, conference championship, national. CFP, national. That's everybody's ceiling. Well, that's not an interesting debate, is it?
No, and I think you have to, like you said, you have to understand that when we say ceiling, we mean the best, but look at what they have on their roster and how that could impact them against who they play.
And there's so many factors. There's a ceiling relative to their roster, who they're playing, where they're playing them, when they're playing them.
No, you're right. So I'll say this. I am almost trying to find something to disagree with you on, because I agree that their ceiling is one loss. And I'm just thinking in my head, trying to play devil's advocate and say, well, Diesel, with Cade Klubnik really not proving himself, I would say Clemson's maybe Florida State's not a realistic win. Maybe it's not. However, I think that I have to agree with you. I know that's boring, but I do. I think that's, what'd you say, 11-1, right?
11-1. I mean, I look at that schedule and I see NC State at home. I see Virginia at home, Louisville at home. Their road opponents are Florida State, which is a roster that's in disarray, right? Sure. And they are led by DJ Uiagalelei.
DJU
at Wake, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt. Most of your road games outside of Florida State, Cole, should be, 75% in your favor, 70% in your favor. You got South Carolina at home. You have a relatively easy schedule, and the tougher games that you do have, 2 out of the 3 of them are at home, not including Georgia, because again, Georgia is a neutral site game at Mercedes-Benz. I look at Clemson's ceiling as being 11-1, going to the ACC title. And whether they win or lose that, I think there's a good chance there may be a smidge of that Clemson resume still hanging on that would get them into the CFP. Could be, even if they didn't win the ACC championship, Cole. But I think what's a more interesting story here is the floor for Clemson. The floor for Clemson, I see, Cole, is 7-5. I look at Cade Klubnik hasn't progressed, and either Dabo sits him, or you go into the 2025 season with a legit quarterback battle and the knowledge that you've missed on 3 straight quarterbacks.
Ooh, wow. Did you say Clemson's floor is 7-5? And their record, I don't know if you still have it pulled up, last year was
The record last year was 9-4.
9-4. Okay.
With 4-4 in ACC play.
All 4 of those losses were conference losses.
Yeah. I mean, I would see losses to NC State, losses to Florida State, Wake Forest, Georgia, obviously. Louisville could be in there. South Carolina could be in there. Again, not trying to gas up my own team, but App State could be in there. If Clemson's losing at home to App State, then that's 7 losses. That's farther than I'm willing to go.
For my floor for Clemson football in 2024, the absolute lowest of lows with realistic expectations mixed in there, right? I think you're looking at, for the floor, a loss to Georgia, a loss to NC State, a loss at Florida State, and a loss to South Carolina.
Because by then, Lenora Sellers will have had time to figure it out. If he's that dude, he will have had an entire season under his belt.
Yeah.
To figure it out. And if he's figured it out, but Cade has not.
So I'm not far off from you. I'm 8-4.
You're 8-4
for Clemson's floor. You and I both for Clemson's ceiling 11-1. Clemson's floor, Diesel and I are 1 game off. He says 7-5. I say 8-4.
Let's move down to Columbia, Cole, straight down I-26. South Carolina, 2023, they were 5-7 on the year, 3-5 in SEC play. I think South Carolina's realistic ceiling. And remember, we had that texter who texted in the other day and said, look out for Lenora Sellers when we were talking about top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. I think realistically, 8 wins is about as high as it's going to get for South Carolina. Yeah, that's about as high as it could possibly be. And you would have to have a lot fall right for you. I mean, you look at their out-of-conference schedule, they've got Old Dominion, Akron, and Wofford on the list. If you beat Clemson also, that's 4 wins right there. So you're searching for 4 more wins on this South Carolina schedule throughout the year. If you could find that, you're at 8-4. Again, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think that's the tippy top realistic expectation for this team. But at 8-4, Cole, we see that. Then we've seen, like we just said, Lenora Sellers figuring out that he is that dude.
Yeah.
Lenora Sellers, to get there, if we want to put a number on it, he's got to be approaching 3,000, 3,500 total yards. And the future looks really bright for South Carolina at that point.
So, man, this one's tough. This one's really, really tough. And caller, I'm going to get to you in just a second. But South Carolina's ceiling, Diesel, I would say game by game, their ceiling would go a little bit like this. I think you'd beat Old Dominion. I think you beat Kentucky. I think you beat Akron. I think you beat A&M, Vandy, Missouri, Wofford, and Clemson. And that equals, similar to you, 8 wins.
There you go.
8 wins. I really do. I think that's their ceiling, 8 wins.
Missouri's going to be a tough one for South Carolina this year. That's going to be a really tough game. Eli Drinkwitz has really turned that program around in a big way. Conversely, Cole, I've got my record for South Carolina and their floor flipped to 4-8 with a loss to one of Old Dominion, Akron, or Wofford. Fans at that point, they're dismissing Sellers. They're clamoring for a transfer quarterback next year. And the fan base at that point, Cole, I think is legitimately starting to turn on Shane Beamer.
And again, your floor was what?
4-8.
4-8.
They were 5-7 last year.
Yeah.
That's 1 more loss than you had last year.
I'll go for the floor. I'll go 3. I hate to do this, but you're exactly right.
I thought you were going to say 2 wins.
No. 8 losses. The floor is 8 losses because they're going to beat Old Dominion, right? They're going to beat Akron. They're going to beat Vandy. They're going to beat Wofford. There's 4 wins right there. Those are gimmies. Mm-hmm. I feel like there are 4 gimmies on South Carolina's schedule. Other than that, some of them are coin flips. Some of them are, you're not going to win that game.
Is that Vanderbilt game in Columbia or is it in
The Vandy
Nashville?
game is in Nashville.
What, are they going to be playing in the parking lot? That stadium is still under construction.
Diesel, they're going to have it finished by college football, okay? Quit doubting. They're going to have it ready.
I'm going to see if there's a construction cam.
Oh, no. Don't do that to Vandy.
I'm going to see if there's a live camera looking at Vanderbilt's stadium construction. I mean, they took that thing down. And, okay. I mean.
You got progress?
I'm trying to find something a little more recent, a little more. Okay, that's a weird looking end zone that they're proposing, but that's just an artist.
Well, they only
rendering.
need one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, for the other team.
They don't need two end zones in Vandy.
Exactly.
Let's be honest.
Exactly. We will effort that camera. If it exists, we will find it over the break, Cole. But going down to Conway now, or actually from Columbia, moving up north to Conway. 2023, Coastal Carolina was a pretty good football team, Cole. They won 8 football games, 5-3 in the Sun Belt. I think the ceiling is a Sun Belt title for them and a home win versus Virginia, getting a Power 5 scalp there in Conway. The fear there, Cole, and this is a little bit of good with the bad, is that if Tim Beck in 2 seasons is winning conference championships in Conway, beating Power 5 teams, then Tim Beck could be a hot coaching name and could get hired away after just 2 years. Another ceiling there, Cole, is if more photos of him hanging out with the dance team on the beach in bikinis show up, I would very much approve that.
Here's my issue. What is life like after Grayson McCall?
Yeah.
You know, that's to me, that's your biggest question mark in Conway when we're looking at all 3 teams, Power 5 team or FBS teams rather, looking at their ceilings and floors. I just think that there's going to be a little bit of I want to say a learning curve, Diesel, but there is going to be a drop-off. Like Grayson McCall was a really, really, really good quarterback for Coastal, and he's gone. You know?
He was, but the problem, Cole, is that last year he was hurt for a lot of the season. We didn't get a lot of Grayson McCall last year, and they still won 8 football games.
They did.
I know what you're saying. You're absolutely right about life after Grayson. But even as he was hurt last year, they still won 8 football games, and they could be in a position to add on that. I have to look and see if
what's your floor? Did you say it already?
My floor for them would be a season opening road loss to Jacksonville State, who just moved up to the FBS. Man, the meat of that schedule is tough. They got 3 really tough games on the road
half's tough,
in the middle of that schedule, Cole. I could see them potentially going 3-9.
For the floor.
The floor.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, Marshall, Georgia Southern, Georgia State in the season, those aren't gimmies. App State's not a gimme. I mean, there's no really gimmies in the Sun Belt. I don't care what anybody says. There's really not. And then they play Virginia and Temple out of conference, you know, along with William and Mary and Jacksonville State. I would agree with that. But people have to realize, like, you know how we talk about South Carolina and Clemson Diesel having gimmies. There are no gimmies when you're at this level because you're either playing in your conference, which happens to be good in the Sun Belt, or you're playing up. You're getting paid to come take an L. So I don't see many gimmies. That's the problem. And like I said, what's life look like post Grayson McCall? Should be interesting, though. I like it. I'm ready. 100 days away from South Carolina Gamecock football, by the way. How about that? All right.
What's going to happen, Cole, if week 0 is no longer good enough and there's a team that wants to play a week prior to that? What are we going to call it?
-1?
Yeah, -1.
-1? Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either.
Are we just going to call it opening week? And then what if somebody wants to play before that?
Preseason. I don't know.
Jeez.
Quick Braves update. They are in the bottom of the 4th in Chicago. The Braves are scoreless. The Cubs are scoreless. 0-0 in the Windy City right now. Well, I just jinxed that. There's one hit to the wall warning track, but it's caught. I thought I jinxed it.
How about it?
Good catch out there in left field for the Bravos. 1 out, bottom of the 4th. Again, we are scoreless. On the other side, well, Clemson baseball played today, and things didn't go really well. We'll tell you about it next right here on the Fan Upstate. Well. The Tigers did not prevail. Clemson, we've said it multiple times, Diesel. And even Don Munson, we talked about it with him earlier in the week. And I saw it all over Twitter, all over social media. Clemson seeding set them up for a very nice 2 games to start the ACC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the bad part about that is, Diesel, Miami disagreed.
No, you got to actually win those games. Just being in them doesn't mean anything. You got to win.
Yeah, well, Miami opened up ACC play over Clemson today. Final score 8-7. Clemson did rally, but once again, Clemson's pitching was a little bit of a question mark. Diesel, Ethan Darden started the game for the Tigers, pitched 1.1 inning, gave up 5 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned runs, and 1 walk. And Clemson, again, late in the game, their bats got hot. They tried to rally, just could not catch up to the 8 runs they allowed early in that game by Miami. This is, I know it's ACC tournament and it's not the end of the season, but this is not a good loss for Clemson.
No, we talked about it a week ago when we were talking about South Carolina falling 6 straight times leading into their tournament, and then they've turned it around, and now they're playing hot baseball right now. Clemson is a roller coaster baseball team this year. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Swept by, who was it, Wake Forest there at the end of the season, second to last series. Then turns around and sweeps Boston. You feel Boston College. You're feeling good about yourselves. You get into tournament play, and then you lay an egg.
Madcraft on the stream says, I, for one, think it went well today. He is a Hurricane fan. Let's see. For Clemson today, let's see what Cam Canarella, one of the best hitters, 2 for 5 was Cam Canarella. Jimmy Overtop, 2 of 4. Jaron Purify, what'd he do? He was 2 of 4 today. Just some decent hitting today. They totaled 11 hits, what should be enough to win a game, right? However, the problem is Miami totaled 12 hits and 1 more hit and 1 more run. That's what matters. You're exactly right. Let's see. It was the 8th inning where Cam Canarella tripled to right center. Overtop doubled, and that got a little bit of a rally going. There was a hit by pitch. Jarrell reached on a fielder's choice to first base. And again, they got close there, but they left 2 runners on base in the 8th after they scored 2 runs. And then in the 9th, the bottom of the 8th, Miami's tacked 1 more run on the board, and in the 9th, Clemson could not get anything going. There was 1 run in the 9th, but not enough to tie it and force extras.
I'm looking at the box score here, Cole, and I'm shocked at just how consistent Miami's hitters were across the board, being able to get hits. I mean, it looks like the right fielder, Lucas Costello, was the only Lucas Costello and then first baseman J.D. Urso, the only 2 Hurricanes who didn't get a hit today, but everybody's scoring runs.
Yeah.
Like, you look down the run column for these players, and they're all scoring runs. They're all getting on base. They're all scoring runs. Consistency across that. That's a tough baseball team to beat.
So we asked the question yesterday, talking about South Carolina, what the Gamecocks could do in the SEC tournament to help their chances for the postseason, right? Well, they've won 2 games. They have LSU today. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, Diesel. But on the flip side, you also have to ask the same question, right? Like the same question we asked about South Carolina yesterday. You have to ask that about Clemson. What can Clemson do now to hurt themselves? Is there anything they can do if they go 2 and barbecue? If they can't win a game in the ACC tournament, does it really hurt their seeding, their regional projections? Luckily, Diesel, for them, they've built up so many wins. They had such a good season that I don't think it would hurt tremendously. But, man, that's just what do they say? You want to be playing your best baseball
right
at this time of year when you're heading in?
It hurts them more in a competitive stance than it does their ability to host. I mean, I don't know that they would lose their regional at this point.
I don't think so.
I mean, but you never know. Wild things have happened, right? They're a 6th seed. And what's the highest seed that actually gets to host a regional? 16 teams get to host. I don't know that they're going to fall 10 spots, but when you're in the super rich southeast of baseball, they may look at it and say, well, you're not good enough to host in this region.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about it hurting them competitively more. I don't think it'll hurt them a ton when it comes to the regional, but like if you go to and barbecue and just don't show up in the ACC tournament, you did beat Boston College. You did sweep Boston College at the end of the year, but you allowed a crap ton of runs. And I asked Don Munson earlier in the week if the pitching was still a concern for Clemson, and he kind of brushed it off, kind of like it wasn't the biggest concern. And I get it, but Clemson, the consistent trend that we've seen from them, Diesel, is they are allowing a little bit too many runs. And as well as I do, when you get to regional play, let's say they fall on their face here in the ACC tournament, Diesel. They get to the regional play, they host. As well as I do, if you can't stop the bleeding against teams like Boston College, you let a team come into a regional and get hot, like a Troy or a South Carolina or whoever it may be, and things probably aren't going to go your way.
Yeah, Cole, I remember asking Don, offensively, where does Clemson feel like they need to be game by game to have a good chance to win games? And he said 5. Cole, 5 ain't good enough. 5 ain't going to get it done. I'm looking back through their schedule. They run ruled Boston College in the last game of the year. But looking back on that, they gave up 6, 10, 13, 8, 4, 12, 3, 14, and 4. I only heard a handful of games out of that list of scores, Cole, where 5 would have won the ball game.
I do have some Eric Bakich post-game audio. The quality may not be the best, but you can look at Bakich and you can look at the players that are with him, and Diesel, this is a big, I don't want to make too much of it, but this is a bad loss. Let's hear what Eric Bakich had to say.
So it stings that we can't go through a loser's bracket and still do it. But we just good opportunity to just get focused on playing well. We know we have a lot of baseball left, but we're going to need to play a better brand of baseball, which we will. And our guys are responding. We'll get a chance to do it tomorrow.
Okay, questions?
Coach, just what went into the decision to start Ethan today, and kind of what are your plans for tomorrow?
By the way, that's David Hood.
The whole plan was to set up our pitching for next week. So Ethan's had a full week of rest from last Thursday, so that was the purpose for pitching him today, and he's been going first on weekends for us up to this point. So we'll evaluate that for next weekend. I don't know what our rotation will be next weekend, but the idea is that he would pitch the game that would get us to Saturday. So
what he's saying basically, Diesel, is they took a little bit of a risk today, right? They took a little bit of a risk by starting Darden today, and they were trying to set their pitching up for next week. They were trying to, and listen,
it's a strategy we've heard a lot about.
It may pay off, right? It may end up working for Clemson better that way. Since the coaches, to me, again, my opinion, Diesel, it seems like Bakich cares about the pitching being set next week more than it does this week, and he should, right? Those games really, really matter next week after Monday. So I don't know that I said it's a bad loss. Don't hear me say that I'm overreacting to an ACC tournament loss, because at the end of the day, it does matter what you do after next Monday. That's when the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that's a strategy we've heard a lot about from several different voices, several different of the guests that we brought on to talk.
Yeah,
to talk college baseball in the tournament. I think Chris Phillips might have mentioned that yesterday, or it was Don Munson that mentioned it a day or two before that. So, I don't think you ever really, obviously don't want to go out there and lose baseball games. Sure. You don't want to affect the confidence and the swagger of your baseball team by losing games early and potentially going 2-Q and not advancing in your tournament. But it's incredible, Cole, how much this conversation keeps coming back around. Are the conference tournaments meaningless? Well, you could say that they are if the best teams who already know that they are getting into the college football playoff don't bother to go out there and try very hard to win.
Well, you've seen, as I asked Chris about yesterday, Diesel, you've seen top seeds once again this year go down. Georgia, for example, and I know they weren't the top seed, but you have seen other top seeds go down. And I think there is something to be said about that because, I don't think coaches will ever tell you they don't matter because they're gonna give you coach's speech, right? But you just heard back, it's pretty clear. I mean, literally in the post-game interview, it was very clear that our priority is pitching for next week. That to me almost says, reading between the lines, Diesel, that almost says we don't really care if we win these games. We're going to play better.
Yeah, I just don't agree with that strategy. I don't. And hey, it's in one of our promos, right? You're a Tolo if you believe that you know more than somebody making 10 times your salary. Somebody you flip burgers for a living, but you think you know more than the coach does. But I just think back to the Braves when they had meaningless baseball for they were playing their AAA team to stay warm last year in the playoffs, and it came back to bite them in the ass because they weren't playing meaningful baseball. And so I just don't really agree.
We'll see right?
They wouldn't say that this is the way they're treating it, but I don't agree with treating it like it is meaningless baseball. Cole, when we come back, we go to the NFL and we look deeply into the NFC South. Try to pick out some of the top revenge games for the 4 NFC South teams and a little kicker just for you on the other side on the Fan Upstate. What's that old saying, Cole? Revenge the dish best served cold.
It's
Yeah.
true though, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the thought of revenge games. Like we think a lot of NFL teams, they're very cold, they're very clinical, right? It's not as emotional as college football. But I guarantee you that's not the truth. I guarantee you that's not the truth. There are games that these teams circle on the schedule year in and year out for various reasons. And Cole, I want to go through the NFC South
Oh man,
and look at some of the most important revenge games for the 4 NFC South teams. And because you're you and you can't walk away from the Cowboys no matter how much they hurt you, I'm going to include the Cowboys in this list too. And I want to
that's
see
nice of you.
if you agree with me. Okay, so let's start. We've got a lot of NFC South fans right here in the building. You know, Rob is a Saint fan. Twisted Todd down the hall, he is a Bucks fan. I cover the Carolina Panthers. I grew up a Carolina Panthers fan. I guess I'm a Panthers fan. Maybe once Tepper gets
a lot
bored.
of confidence there, dude.
No, once Tepper gets bored and moves on, then I'll be a Panthers fan again. Brandon is a Falcons fan, so there you go. We have a lot of NFC fans, NFC South fans, right here in the building. So let's start right here in the upstate, right here in the Carolinas, Cole, with the Carolina Panthers. I mean, let's be real. For the Panthers, like every game is a revenge game. When you only
lost them all.
Yeah, when you only win 2 games last year, every game is a revenge game, Cole. But I circle 2 that are going to be really important for the Carolina Panthers, that I think they're going to have a little extra juice in them. I would say Week 5 at the Bears with DJ Moore on the other side of the ball, Cole. Yeah, I think you want to make sure that you can show that we don't need you, that we can win without you, that our quarterback is fine. I mean, obviously, there's the narrative of the 2 number ones back to back. Wasn't there a game last year for the Carolina Panthers where they faced the 2022 first round pick or number 1 overall pick?
There might have been.
That happened, right?
I know they played CJ Stroud and actually beat them.
Yeah.
That was one of their wins.
I might be just thinking about the CJ Stroud situation and thinking, all right, here's back-to-back picks number 1 and 2. So that's going to be a big one, obviously, with DJ Moore on the other side of the ball. But Cole, I think the one that's going to matter a lot to the Panthers is going to be November 10th versus the Giants in Munich. Same situation. They're going to be facing Brian Burns on the other side of the ball. Brian Burns is going to want to make a statement and say, Carolina, you're idiots for letting me go. Carolina is going to be out to prove that they didn't actually need him, that he wasn't all that in a bag of chips like he led them to believe. So I think those 2 games are going to be really big for the Carolina Panthers. Again, all games are revenge games for the Panthers because they sucked so bad last year.
Well, that's true. I would say that my revenge game for the Carolina Panthers in 2024, this is going to sound like I didn't even look at the schedule, but I think it's the first one. I think it's at New Orleans. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of factors that go into this, but one of the factors is that they feel like that they have pieces that are better than New Orleans pieces. And depending on what pieces you're talking about, I think you might be right, but I think that there's no love lost, Diesel, between Carolina and New Orleans. And I think that September the 8th game at 1:00 in New Orleans is their revenge game.
Let's go south down I-85, Cole. The Falcons, I see Kirk Cousins going back up against his old team in the Vikings, December 8th. That is going to be a big one for the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins spent 6 seasons in Minnesota. He went 50-35, tore his Achilles, and the team moved on from him. Right? They didn't give him a chance. They said, "You're old, bro. You're 35. You're not coming back from this." Well, he wants to prove that he still has it. So I think that's going to be the big one for the Atlanta Falcons this year.
Yeah, I like that one. I really do. No pushback there. I think that's the obvious choice.
Let's go down to New Orleans. How about it for the Saints? Sean Payton is coming back to New Orleans for the first time with the Denver Broncos. He's got 10 staffers with him there in Denver who have ties to the Saints. That one's going to be real just because there's so much personnel that knows each other, that knows that building.
That's week 7.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one for the Saints. I mean, again, all divisional games are big games, but we're thinking of those games that have a little something extra.
Yeah, I think so. I would also circle in terms of a revenge game. I know that, you might not think it's the biggest rival, but I think you would also circle Week 16, 2 days before Christmas when they go to Green Bay. I think that's one that, Sean Payton feels like that he might try to like if you look at their schedule and you think, okay, what's one of the games, one or two games where Sean Payton may be able to pull one out of his where, I think that could be one of them. And there's no love lost there between Sean Payton and Green Bay, so I think that could be a good one. But I have to agree that Denver Week 7, where's that game at?
That is in New Orleans.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
That's going to be a good one. And then Cole, for the Buccaneers, I look at probably the Lions in that one. That's the team that, obviously ended their season last year. They lost twice to the Lions, including again in that divisional playoff game. The Bucs couldn't protect Baker Mayfield in that game. They brought in 4 new interior offensive linemen to protect Baker. I mean, that's still going to be tough. I think the Lions are going to be victimizing the Bucs yet again this year.
I like that.
And they couldn't get to Jared Goff either. So they brought in a lot of good pass rushers down there in Tampa Bay. But the Lions, I don't think the Bucs are going to get the better of this one. So Cole, let's look back quickly at those. Who do we think is going to actually get the better of these revenge games? Do you think the Carolina Panthers get either the Bears or the Giants?
Mm-mm.
Neither of them.
Mm-mm.
Neither of them. Okay. I think I remember when we did
the Giants.
When we did our outlooks, I think I have them beating the Giants. So
Yeah.
I do think they get Brian Burns. I mean, he by himself can't win that game for the Giants. Panthers maybe just a little bit better across the board than the Giants are. For the Falcons, taking on the Vikings, that's going to be tough. The Vikings are a pretty good football team. I don't think the Falcons get the better of that one. We're going to have to wait and see. Again, does Kirk still have it after an Achilles surgery? He's going to be diminished in some way. You have to think at least even just a little bit. So the Vikings, I think, probably even with J.J. McCarthy starting, may have just a little bit more. Cole, let's skip down to the Cowboys and their revenge game.
I've got it.
Could be the game versus the Browns. Amari Cooper is on the other side, on the wrong side. That has to be circled. And, of course, the 49ers who have just torn your hearts out over and over and over again over the past couple of seasons. I think the 49ers has a ton of extra juice if you're a Cowboy fan.
Yes, for me, Dallas's revenge game is definitely San Francisco until they can beat them. Okay, as you said, they've made us cry year after year. I think 3 years straight now the Cowboys have lost to the 49ers. So, yeah, if you have to throw the Cowboys in there and make me upset, make me a little depressed today.
Do you as a Cowboy fan feel any real heat with the in-state rivalry with Houston?
Not yet, but with CJ Stroud being the better quarterback, ask me that in a year, okay?
All right.
Ask me that in a year. All right, coming up on the very next side, we'll talk football, baseball, all things sports, Clemson, South Carolina with Chapel Fowler of the State newspaper. First time bringing him on Wire to Wire. Stay tuned. Clemson baseball with not the start they were looking for in the ACC tournament. As we mentioned just a few moments ago, Miami gets the best of the Tigers today. And to talk about that and a little bit more, want to bring in Chapel Fowler, first time joining us right here on Wire to Wire. He covers Clemson football and a lot more for the state newspaper. Chapel, number one, we appreciate you hopping on with us today. And not the best start. A little surprising, in my opinion, that Clemson goes down in game one.
Yeah, not exactly the performance you'd expect from the number 2 seed in that tournament versus an 11 seed. Maybe a little bit of flashback to what happened last year in the regional round, which is kind of a unexpected. How did that happen? How are you down 6-2 after 3 innings or whatever it was on that stage with what's ahead of you? Now, obviously, we have our interesting little pool play thing going on in this tournament, which everybody has opinions on. So there is one more functionally useless game for Clemson tomorrow. But when you think about that national seed line, tomorrow actually gets a lot more interesting. So, yeah, I mean, this loss alone has put them in a spot where, you'd rather win 14-0 than 10-0 against Louisville or something like that. I mean, it kind of puts you in an interesting spot with pitchers too, whoever you use. And, you're looking for the best result without trying to burn yourself too much before next weekend in Doug Kingsmore. But yeah, I mean, they put themselves in a little bit of a trickier position. They'll probably end up in the top 8 or right around there, depending on how some other things break. Georgia losing early is probably good for Clemson in that regard. But yeah, not exactly a performance totally befitting of a number 4, number 6 team in D1 baseball, whatever they were this week. But kind of emblematic of some of these struggles they've had down the stretch, finishing, I think, maybe just something like 2 or 3 games over 500 over their last 20 or so. I'm forgetting the specifics, but a little bit of a slump here for a team that is still really good.
Chapel Fowler of the state newspaper joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Chapel, thanks for jumping on with us for the first time. We had the audio. We played it in the last segment of the segment before that. Eric Bakich, kind of tips his hat and says, yeah, we were looking forward to next week's pitching rotational needs. We didn't throw our best pitcher out here to win this game. But with this, Clemson team being as streaky as it has been at times throughout the season, how would you look at, going 2 and out, affecting this team going forward into regional play?
Yeah, well, if you take a similar revenue sport example, it didn't certainly hurt the men's basketball team with the way they laid that stinker against Boston College and then did what they did, making the first Elite Eight in, 44 years. So maybe they need Brunell to talk to the baseball team like the golf team had him do last weekend. But yeah, I mean, and Eric said it in the presser, and I think he's right. You want to be playing your best ball, and regardless of how an 0-2 ACC tournament showing affects your seeding, it might not affect it at all. It'll affect it minimally at best. It could obviously affect the top 8 seed, which is huge, but that stuff doesn't particularly impact. That doesn't keep out of the tournament, but winning at least one of those games does a lot. You don't want to be going in as the team that's on that type of slump. That makes the 4 seed in your regional probably perk up a little bit more than they already are because they're traveling in from wherever as an auto bid with absolutely nothing to lose. And just an opportunity to knock off a team in its own regional. And I want to say Clemson has failed to advance out of its own regional something like, 4 or 5 times since their last College World Series appearance. It's kind of a concerning trend, and that's obviously one of the reasons Bakich is the coach right now, and Monty Lee isn't. So I think for that alone, tomorrow's game is big. Pitching, obviously, like you mentioned, that's part of it. It's the pool play, I think, is popular with some coaches because it allows you to kind of manipulate your pitching and maybe not totally burn some of your best guys heading into the following week, which obviously if you're not playing to get into the tournament is, far more important. But yeah, there's a lot more stakes for a game that doesn't totally matter tomorrow. So that makes it fun. It makes the pool play actually a little interesting with this wrinkle and this kind of, I don't know, what do they call it in Stranger Things? The upside down type of game we got tomorrow where both teams can't do anything besides play each other. There's no advancement. But there is some stuff to be gained.
Hey, Chappell, I want to ask you a very similar question to what I asked Don Munson just a couple of days ago about your video that you posted on Twitter with Jack Leggett. You know, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And, you know, Clemson fans will be very candid that, you know, for the most part, that whole Leggett deal really didn't end on the best terms with Clemson and Clemson fans. And, you know, as Don Munson told us, that Monty Lee, even though he gave him an open invitation to come back into the program, there was a little bit of, you know, I don't want to call it beef, but there was something there between Jack Leggett. And I thought that was an incredible video that you put up a couple of days ago. And in your opinion, do you feel like that this is more of like a tribute to Jack, or do you feel like Jack actually adds value to this Clemson baseball staff?
Yeah, well, appreciate that. Thanks for reading and watching and getting that to Don, who I'm sure had a brilliant take about it, as he always does. Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely brings value. They wouldn't have him on the staff if he didn't. And I think just having a steady hand, a veteran presence in the room for so many situations, like you guys can probably think of a veteran guy in the radio sphere that, as you know, giving you one little tiny tip along the way, or like, hey, don't do this, or hey, do that. That type of stuff can go a super long way. And especially for a game like college baseball, with how long the season is and everything that goes into that, and how many games you play and how many adjustments are already being made. You know, having a guy that's done it for so long, especially at that place specifically, is huge. But I think, and it's really, really simple. I think another part of it is, you know, Jack really appreciates what this is. He knows that he's not, you know, being hired to be the lead assistant, you know, to bust his butt. Like, he's 70 years old. He understands. He lives in Greenville. He doesn't live in Clemson. He commutes down there every day. He understands that he's not being asked to, like, be Bakic's number two. But I think just the simple fact that, you know, Graham Neff reached out to him during the search, that Eric wanted him on his staff. You think a lot about layups in whatever field you're in. Like, what's a really easy way to make my fans happy or make somebody happy? Like a little tiny gesture like that. And for him, obviously, that meant a lot. And, you know, if you're Clemson, you're certainly would be inclined to be on good terms with somebody like that, given everything he did for that baseball program, even though, as you mentioned, it was kind of a messier exit. And he would admit the teams that he had after that last World Series team in 2010 didn't totally meet their expectations. But, you know, it's kind of a feel-good story all around. And I think him being inducted into the State Athletic Hall of Fame, you know, that guy's not from South Carolina. He's from Vermont. Like, the reason he's in the State Athletic Hall of Fame is because of what he did for Clemson baseball, and the fact that he can stand up there and say thank you and proudly trumpet and rep Clemson, and they can feel that love and kind of get that publicity. I think that's a good outcome for everything. And like you said, a lot of credit there, smart credit to Bakich and Graham Neff, the athletic director, for making what is a pretty simple gesture in the grand scheme of things to him to get him back involved. But obviously, as you can tell from just hearing him speak about it, means so much to him.
Joined by Chappell Fowler of the State newspaper, covers Clemson. Special shout out there goes to the Clemson golf team, who won the Chapel Hill Regional, first regional championship in 20 years for a storied golf program. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years. But you mentioned it there. Jack Leggett inducted into the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame alongside Clemson golf great Lucas Glover, Marcus Lattimore as well. You know, not to impugn the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame, because they do a fantastic job. But who do you see as like a deserving candidate that hasn't quite gotten over the hump, hasn't quite gotten into that South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame, who you think might be the next one to go in?
Well, I know that I want to say they had something like a 1 or 2 year hiatus with COVID, and they're kind of back playing catch up with who they're getting in. So I think their class was 10 people this year, which was tied for the largest ever with some class in the 70s. So they've got a crazy backlog of people. And I know that's something they want to do, is get more people in, because they realize they're a little bit behind. You can probably Google, you know, best football or basketball or whatever athletes in South Carolina and find 5 who aren't in there yet, just kind of because of that backlog. off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but I will say the state of South Carolina produces more like NBA players randomly than I think any state like ever. Like, I swear to God, you look at like a random NBA roster and it feels like, over the last 20, 30, 40 years, and like someone on that team is from South Carolina. Like Clifford Ray, I didn't know Clifford Ray was from South Carolina. Ray Allen, sneaky South Carolina native. Kevin Garnett, sneaky South Carolina native. There's a lot of guys that, whether they transfer out, and that's another issue, and the thing that obviously the in-state programs don't want to happen, and they're trying to do a better job of preventing. But there's kind of a ridiculous list of former South Carolinians in the basketball world specifically, which I'm a huge fan of. I've been watching the playoffs like crazy. So I could probably get a basketball name for you if I looked, but I don't know off the top of my head. I know the qualification for how long you have to be kind of out of your sport is another thing that probably some people are on the cusp of. Sammy Watkins just got into the Clemson Hall of Fame because he just hit, I want to say their criteria is something like 10 years after you've exhausted your NCAA eligibility. So there's probably some people that are creeping up on it in that regard too. But yeah, pretty decorated class as it always seems. And it just goes to show this state's got a lot, no matter what sport it's in.
Hey, Chappell, Diesel and I were talking about this before we brought you on, but we both wanted to hear from you on this article that went up a little bit earlier on your Twitter about the state of South Carolina having a new NIL law, what it means for Clemson, what it means for South Carolina, and for those listeners out there that are listening to the station that have not yet heard about this. Yeah,
for sure. So that is something that, as one of the co-sponsors described to me, was something that the big three, so Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, were kind of the impetus for. They were the ones who initially reached out to lawmakers about doing this. They were doing lobbying. Obviously, there was that big news-making visit where you had Dabo and Shane and both athletic directors and a few other people in the same room at the state capitol kind of testifying on behalf of this bill. I'm wondering when the last time both those football coaches as well as their ADs were in like the same room together for something other than a football game, even at the same location. That doesn't happen a lot. Those people have busy schedules. So I think that goes to show how much they wanted it. It's a little legalese, but kind of the gist of it is before the NCAA kind of ushered in NIL stuff, so that would have been summer 2021. The writing was kind of on the wall that it was going to happen, that something was going to happen in that regard. So the state legislature made a bill that they thought was kind of like preemptive and would help streamline the process. They were anticipating the NCAA to be very strict in its guidance. The NCAA kind of just put out a 1-paragraph press release. So you guys remember there wasn't really much about here's how you do this, here's what to do, here's what not to do. And the term Wild West gets thrown around all the time about kind of what it became. So this is essentially the legislature found a way to suspend that law after just 1 year because everybody kind of realized, hey, this is actually preventing our schools from fully operating the way that other schools in other states are. So that they temporarily suspended it through some kind of legal mechanism. And what just passed or got signed into law by McMaster this week is something that kind of formalizes and establishes a new law that's intentionally vague and broad in its wording about what schools can and can't do. They can have a lot more oversight now. They can look over contracts they used to only be able to look over for compliance reasons and, use their in-house legal team or somebody with experience in the field, to pull a young person aside and be like, hey, I know you're excited about this deal, but this is actually a bad deal. This is really predatory. There's this hidden clause about future earnings. This agent's going to get X% of whatever you earn if you sign this. Finding ways to prevent that. They can pitch deals. Imagine a situation where, let's say, South Carolina has someone in their athletic department who's like cousins with, the CEO of like a burger chain. And they just send them a text and say, hey, do you want to, do an NIL deal with our offensive line? They're playing really well this year. That's something that you couldn't do under state law in South Carolina before this. And that's something that a lot of other schools in other states, especially SEC schools, have been able to do just because they have either no laws governing this stuff or broader laws. So kind of the simplest way to say it is these schools are on a more level playing field with other schools in other states now. And it's funny that it kind of comes down to like we put a law in place, so we actually need to take that law back because the NCAA has given us like no guidance whatsoever. So it's still pretty murky, but obviously you could tell with the way the schools were pitching this and promoting this that they really wanted this, and they can kind of do a lot more for their athletes now in a lot of different ways. And it just creates a better product, better, smarter NIL operations means that you get better deals for your players, and then all that adds up. And then you can be in a recruiting pitch and say, hey, by the way, our players have earned X amount in NIL last year. And maybe that's a big jump from what it was last year or the year before that because of what you can do to kind of help those players behind the scenes. So it just kind of loosens some things up, makes things a little bit easier from a compliance and legal perspective.
Chapel, that certainly seems like it hits close to home at exactly the right time, potentially for South Carolina athletes. We just spent a lot of time yesterday talking about this lawsuit between Jaden Rashada and some members there at Florida, which it seems as if having somebody at the school looking over your contract to see if it's fair or not could have potentially, staved off or avoided that situation. I want to ask one further question about that. I read your article today, and it was talking about schools being allowed to grant permission for an athlete to use its trademarks for an NIL deal. So does that mean, for example, that DJU would have been able to wear a Clemson shirt or something with a tiger paw on it in his Dr. Pepper commercials rather than just wearing an orange jersey?
Yeah, it would. And there was something in that initial law that passed kind of regarding that, but it was, again, kind of a detailed process, not incredibly streamlined. There were still some compliance issues. This kind of just clears the way for that. But yeah, that's a possibility now. The use of facilities is also part of it. It's very easy to now pop into your sports arena or court or whatever and use that as part of promotion, whether you're, hitting a few shots on the tennis court or shooting a few shots on the court. Clemson had built this state-of-the-art NIL facility that its athletes could use called the CAB, the CAB, what kind of houses in its football facility. And then they got clarification that, actually, by the way, like that stuff right now under NCAA guidance, that's a no-no unless it's accessible for the entire student population. So that kind of kills the purpose, right? So the schools have essentially been tiptoeing around a lot of this stuff. And this kind of makes it just a little bit easier on a state level. That doesn't mean the NCAA couldn't come out with some new sweeping guidance that changes everything again, because that's kind of what NIL has been so far. It's kind of, they put it out there without many rules or guidelines, and they've been kind of trying to rein it back in a lot of ways. So that could obviously change, but just on the very simple level of compliance and trademark and all this stuff, schools don't really have to act blind to the deals that they used to. They don't really have to tiptoe around everything, and that just kind of makes it a more efficient process.
Chapel, I think you might have just given me my favorite new oxymoron of the day: NCAA guidance. Right? We've heard of military intelligence, now NCAA guidance, which means nothing because they have any kind of guidance and it gets struck down immediately, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, like, with all this guidance, and then at the same time, we're talking about that settlement and just a lot of ways how the NCAA is really powerless in so many regards. That it's really an athlete-driven operation now. So yeah, that guidance comes with an asterisk every single time.
Chapel, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on, and look forward to having you on again real soon.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, that's Chapel Fowler of the State Newspaper. You can follow him on Twitter at Chapel Fowler. Great stuff. A lot to dive into with what he said, especially with the new NIL law.
Yeah, and it seems like it just brings South Carolina back into a level playing field with other states around us that they tried to get out ahead of this thing. They tried to create some guidelines within the state, and then boom, the NCAA said, yeah, actually, we don't have any guidelines. You can do whatever you want to do. So finally, they're getting this law basically off the books, striking this law off the books. Cole, when we come back, something that is going to drive some of our Tolos completely nuts. Those of you who don't like change, this is going to stick in your craw a little bit. Greenville making more of those U.S. News and World Report lists. That's on the other side on the Fan Upstate.
This is Wire to Wire with
Cole, there's a lot of people in this city. There's a lot of people listening to this show right now who want all the new people who just moved here to go the hell home.
Oh,
Yeah. I
that's
know.
not smart.
I love the fact that a ton of people are moving to Greenville. I love the fact that Greenville is growing and we're getting new and exciting things, Cole. But there's a group of people who don't want to see that happen.
They're called losers.
Exactly. Cole, Greenville has just made it into the latest U.S. News and World Report best places to live in the United States list. We are actually in the top 5. Can you believe that? Top 5 on this new poll, Cole. They ranked 150 cities. And in the past, they would do metro areas. So greater upstate versus greater Charlotte versus greater Raleigh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they've shrunk this down city by city, Cole. And this is bad news. Bad news for those of you who don't want to see this place grow. Michael Stadakis. Greenville.
Throwing shots at Big Mike today. Dang, man.
I just saw Michael last week. I give him hell every day.
I haven't seen him in a while.
No, here's what they had to say about us, Cole. These are all good things, right? All good things. Population of Greenville City proper, 78,000 people. Median home price, $394,000, which if that's the median, good God.
What'd you just...
Yeah.
How much?
$394. Median household income, $76K.
Yeah, that adds up.
I guess like $76K for a household income is not actually that much money when you think about it, right? That's two people making 37,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you can make a living off of that, but that's median. It's median. That means it's in the middle, right?
Yeah.
But Cole, here's what they had to say. But this is a nice thing. They describe Greenville like the setting of a Hallmark movie. I don't know that I believe that, right? Just people smiling, holding hands, walking down the street,
snowing.
Yeah,
Christmas
snowing every day. Wow,
lights.
it's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
They did mention, Cole, Greenville's blending of civilization and nature, and how that attracts tourists.
Wait a minute, blending of civilization and nature.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
figure like a little bit. Maybe what they mean, I think. Cole's like when you go to downtown Greenville, you see a lot of trees. You see a lot of green space, right?
Like trees on the side of the road. Trees.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess it's still trees, right?
I didn't know if you meant the other trees.
It's not.
I mean, Greenville does have those
Asheville.
trees too.
That's
I
Asheville
got you. Sorry.
By the way, Asheville's on this list as well. We're gonna get there.
That's a sucky list if Asheville's on it, right?
Here's something that blows me away, Cole. Last night, by the way, Ashley and I went out to the Grand Bohemian Hotel, had dinner at the restaurant there. Phenomenal experience there. Shout out to the crew over there. But Greenville has the 3rd highest concentration of restaurants and bars per capita on this list.
Okay.
People always ask, like, what is Greenville known for? Like, why should I come to Greenville? What is the attraction to Greenville? I'm not sure I get this whole blending of nature and civilization thing. Are they talking about like the trails, like the Swamp Rabbit Trail, like Falls Park? It seems like that's what they mean there. Because if they're talking about Greenville City proper, you can't go outside of the Greenville City. That doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
3rd highest, like people say, what's Greenville known for? It's a foodie city. Well, all these restaurants are coming in from Charleston. Like these aren't really Greenville restaurants. Some of them are like local spots.
No.
But a lot of the new joints that are coming to downtown Greenville, these are all backed by out of market restaurant groups.
Diesel, get it right. Spartanburg's the foodie city, don't you know? Don't you remember Spartanburgers?
Yeah, that's what everybody's known for.
That's what they're known.
Everybody there loves burgers. What was that? What was that character, that old cartoon character who was just addicted to eating cheeseburgers? I'm talking way back in the day, like early. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No. They talked about our job market, our overall quality of life. It says these cities are ranked based on best combination of cost of living, desirability, jobs, quality of life, and more. And they weighted these factors, Cole, on 3,000 individual surveys. So there's a lot of people getting in on this. But Cole, our little city, our little slice of the world, Greenville, number 4 in U.S. News and World Report's
So
Best places to live in the U.S.
I don't have, or let me say this, I don't mean to rain on your parade, Diesel. However, I do have a theory. And I don't believe I've shared this theory with you yet.
Thank you, Spur Daddy.
What is
Says that's Wimpy from Popeye.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Burdette.
You don't know who that is.
So I have a theory, as I was saying,
Mm-hmm.
that these lists that get thrown out, you see this on a monthly basis almost.
Sure.
This city's name, so-and-so. I think it's all spam. I think it's all bogus, and I don't believe any of it. I think what happens is, across America, they use marketing campaigns to target certain areas, and every city's on the list.
You think the government and these people are trying to
Yes.
move the population around into
Yes.
certain areas?
Listen,
You think they're trying to declutter some of the biggest cities? You know, they're trying to declutter DC, trying to declutter Atlanta, to get people from Atlanta to move up to Greenville,
if
right?
you live in Corpus Christi, there's going to be a day when you're living there, and it's going to say Corpus Christi, Texas, named one of the best places to live
When
in
was
America.
the last time you ever saw Flint, Michigan on one of these lists, Cole?
Norfolk,
You don't.
Virginia, the best place to live in America, right?
So here's the top 10. I'll give you the top 10, then I'll give you some more notables in the
Okay.
top 25. We're not going to read the whole top 150. That's ridiculous. Number 1, Naples, Florida. Never been? Can't say either way.
I've been one time. It is
Nice.
very, very nice.
Okay,
Yes,
there
very
you go.
nice.
So you're not calling BS on that one.
No BS there.
Number 2, Boise, Idaho. Never been to Boise, but I hear
Oh.
really great things about Boise.
What is it known for, though? That's a good question.
Boise State. I mean, yeah. I mean,
A blue field?
yeah, I guess. Number 3, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Okay.
You always hear good things about Colorado Springs. Number 4 is Greenville. Number 5 is Charlotte. Number 6 is Raleigh. The corridor right
Wow.
there. Greenville,
Yeah.
Raleigh, Charlotte.
How about that?
Number 7, never been here, Huntsville, Alabama.
Few times,
You buying
passed
it?
through. No, I'm not buying that.
Okay.
Nope. not buying
Number
it.
8, Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Never been there, I don't
Okay.
believe. Have you?
I have
Virginia
not.
Beach?
If I have, I was little, so a lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
Number 9 here, I know this is like a hot spot, right? Austin, Texas. If you're like hippy dippy, right?
Yeah. It's so
Isn't Austin basically just like Asheville in Texas?
very, very, very similar in styles of people and living. I'll tell you this about the cities in Texas, having lived there for a year and traveled the state a good bit with the Cowboys. Every city, and this is no joke, every city in Texas is like its own state. Really, it's like its own country. I mean, one city, all three of those cities are completely different. I'm talking about polar opposite different. So, yeah, I mean, Austin, it is like I have heard people say it's a good place to live. I've been
Yep.
a couple of times, and for whatever reason, people do like it there.
Number 10 is Boulder, Colorado. That wraps up the top 10. Some more notables, Cole. There's a reason why there's so much growth around here, right? Again, we have Greenville number 4, Charlotte number 5, Raleigh number 6, Charleston is number 13, Asheville number 17. That's the one I don't get. That's the one I don't get. Look, I have had plenty of fun in Asheville, but Asheville's a dump.
It is.
Asheville really is
It
a
is.
dump.
It's nasty.
I mean, you go there, there's hobos all over the ground. They lay out on the sidewalks. No one ever does anything about it. Like, I give Greenville a lot of credit for cracking down on that. We don't see the hobos laying on the streets in downtown Greenville. Back in the day, like
Let's go to
5,
Spartanburg.
6, 7 years ago, did they just go to Spartanburg? You used to see that, right? Like, you'd be walking down Main Street, and there would be, like, every street corner, there was a hobo panhandling. Well, now they're all out here on Woodruff Road, right? They're all standing at the stoplights.
So, James, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And number 23, Greensboro. That's the last one on the list from the
Greensboro.
area.
I don't have anything against Greensboro.
But no
I've been,
Spartanburg.
well, they're known for the burgers.
But to prove your point, Cole, like a year ago, I saw one of these lists. Spartanburg was
It
on it, and
was.
Greenville was not.
It's a marketing tactic. It's bogus, okay? Shane says Huntsville, Alabama ain't all it's cracked up to be. Shane, I've been, and I agree with you. I don't remember even thinking, man,
What do you
this is a
mean,
nice
Shane?
place.
We need some details. What are you saying here?
James says get people to Iva, South Carolina. Oh, man. Texter says Cole just unknowingly identified himself as a flat earther. Wow. How'd that happen? What'd I say?
Yeah, what did you
I
say?
don't know. Did I
Hey, the fact that you believe the conspiracy
Oh,
that these lists are designed to move the population around.
Maybe so. Maybe that's it. Texter says, is Boise, Idaho known for potatoes? Shame on you guys. Y'all just fought over potatoes yesterday. So, let's go to the house or to Boise for good potatoes.
So, Cole, here I am. I'm looking at images of Boise.
Yeah.
Seems like a nice city. It seems, honestly, it bears some similarities to Greenville, just at the base of a mountain.
I was going to say, isn't Boise like really scenic with the mountains in the background?
It is, yeah. I got a heck of a football team out there. You have a good time going to watch. I don't know, that hurt my eyes watching football on blue turf. But yeah, I mean, Boise looks nice.
So again, this is the top cities in America. Is that what it was?
This is the U.S. World News and Reports top 150 best places to live in the U.S.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, so that it excludes places like New York because everything's insanely expensive in New York, right? Sure. And it excludes places like Spartanburg because of the crime rate so high.
I can't believe there wasn't a lot of, and maybe there was. I'm mistaking here. I'm surprised there weren't more tax-free. Well, there were. Austin and Texas. There was one. Was there only one Florida city on that top 10? Which is surprising to me.
Yeah, it was Naples. Naples was number 1,
and that was the only Florida because that. I mean,
I not in the top 10.
In the top 10, I mean.
Not in the top 10, yeah.
Because if we're being transparent,
but if
Florida have like 5 of the top 10.
But if you're in Florida, you got an insane governor.
Yeah,
who's picking fights with Disney.
Florida's beautiful, man. Florida's I
don't know. I used to hear when I was a kid, Cole, I used to hear how great Boca Raton was.
Yes, great.
I was in Boca once and I saw a guy getting a hedra on the beach.
Well, it happens.
I mean, it's like, why do you think they used to make the lists?
You been to Destin?
No, I've never been to Destin.
Destin will change your opinion on Florida. You move to you go to Destin, you go visit Destin, I'm telling you, you'll be hooked.
Is it because it's a party town or is it a beautiful town?
I think I think Panama is probably considered, which is just 30 minutes.
Panama.
30 minutes or so away. I think it's more of the party city. Destin's just beautiful, man. The sand, come on. Spur Daddy says, I'm with Cole. Florida is beautiful. James says, Florida's God's waiting room. Thanks for the messages there.
Cruel.
I didn't know I was a flat earther all of a sudden, though. Learned something new today.
Yeah, who is it? Was it Spur Daddy? I think it was Spur Daddy. Let me go back and see if I can find it. Who said this? This is a good joke. They said that Wimpy should be the new mascot for the Spartan Burgers. They said he'd be out there trying to eat the players' hats.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez. Quick Braves update before we do go to break. It is the bottom of the 8th inning, and the Atlanta Braves are just in prime position to blow this game. What do I mean by that? They're up 3-0. I mean, this is where the Cubs want them, right?
Bottom of the 8th, yeah. Watch the Cubs come out and hit a home run. No outs.
No outs. Yeah, you're right.
Get it going.
Who was that? Is that AJ Minter? Oh, yeah, they're screwed. They're going to lose. They're definitely going to lose.
Has that guy not been sent back down to AAA yet?
AJ Minter has pictures of somebody, okay?
He's got a name. That's all he's got.
I joke. I say this half jokingly, but I mean, seriously, with AJ Minter out there and no outs, this game's not over yet. This game's not over. I hate to say it. All right, coming up in the very next segment, we'll get you caught up on what happened last night, what's happening tonight. You call them headlines. We call them Daily Wires.
Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Every single day, we try to mix these into our show to keep you up to date on what's happening. It is the Daily Wires. I got to stop laughing when you do that because we're not going to get nominated for those awards with that laughing in the background, but it's so funny. It's so funny. Let you know right now, the Atlanta Braves, for now, keyword, for now, are up 3-0.
By the way, we have a new poll up. We want you all to go participate with our poll on Twitter. Greenville voted number 4 on U.S. News and World Report's best cities to live in the U.S. Cole Bryson says these lists exist to engineer population migration. 2 choices. Fit him for a tinfoil hat, or he might be onto something. Go to Twitter right now and vote.
Oh, Artolos are saying I'm a flat earther now because of that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but check us out on the Fan Upstate on Twitter.
One of the most unbelievable things about conspiracy theorists, Cole, is they all believe that way too many people, way too high up on the food chain care about them.
True.
To actually try to manipulate them.
No, I agree with that.
They don't care about you.
You can also follow Diesel and I on Twitter. He's at Diesel on Radio on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. I am at the Cole
it's
Bryson.
Twitter. It's Twitter. We
I
gotta,
call
we
it
gotta
Twitter.
stop with this.
I call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's Twitter because it's still twitter.com. It's not x.com.
I know. I'm just saying whatever they call it.
What the hell was Elon thinking? Number one, when he changed it to X, and then he tries to change the entire verbiage around the cultural phenomenon of Twitter, and then he invents something called Grok.
Well,
the hell is that feature?
When you're a billionaire, I guess you don't think that way, you know? You just do what you do, and then you
put
just
your little
do
satellites
you,
in the
man.
sky, Eli, and leave us alone.
All right,
Elon.
Daily Wires. Florida Panthers crushed the New York Rangers in Game 1. 3-0 was the final score. Diesel, what is this about Angel Reese becoming part owner of the Women's DC Power Football Club?
You cannot become a mogul, Cole, without owning a piece of a sports team. You have to.
I guess so. I guess me and you should be next then, if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, she put, a part of her rookie $75,000 paycheck into becoming a part owner of DC Power Football Club. DC Power is a women's USL league, a new women's USL league. She's 22, so shout out Angel getting in on this at an early level. I mean, imagine, Cole, if you at 22 years old were buying a small stake of the Greenville Drive or buying a small stake of the Greenville Triumph or something like that. That'd be cool to say that you're a part owner in this. Unfortunately, Cole, her stake has not been disclosed because I assume it is a very tiny stake. Again, what's the rookie contract for WNBA players? $75K? You can't be putting much into this thing.
We had a text and someone on the stream. Shorty on the stream and a texter both commented and said, it does show up as x.com now. Diesel, you got to find the new reason, says a texter. So I didn't know that.
Stop me.
I didn't know that. It's x.com? X.com. I didn't know that. Thank you for pointing that out. Texter. CBS reports that former NC State star DJ Burns has burned some calories, 45 pounds he has lost since leading up to the NBA draft. Diesel, he was 6'9", 275. Now he's 230. What on earth did he do?
That makes me feel like such a fat ass.
You think that he can lose?
I mean,
he can lose 45 that quick?
He's 6'9", and he's got me at this point by only like 12 pounds.
What do you do to lose 45 pounds in that short of time?
Well, first of all, you don't eat the 50 count nugget challenge from Wendy's.
Oh, so we can't do that?
I would advise not if you want to lose weight like DJ Burns.
It's mighty impressive. The Braves last night, they did win 9-2 to improve to 27-17 on the season. Max Fried last night, 9 innings. He allowed 3 hits, sat down 9 batters. He was phenomenal. We are going to the bottom of the 9th now.
Maybe we should just say the sky is falling more often with the Atlanta Braves, because every time we say, oh, my God, what's going on? They suck. This season is down the crapper. They rattle off a couple of wins, and they put up a bunch of runs.
It's true. You're right.
What's going on?
We'll keep saying that then.
I have long believed, Cole, that I am the nexus of sports in this universe. Like I have a feeling like as soon as I put my support behind a team, they go down the crapper. As soon as I turn the channel, the team starts winning. Right?
Could you start pulling for the Eagles, please? Please and thank you.
I thought you were going to start pulling for the Eagles.
No. The Dallas Mavericks last night did take game 1 over the Timberwolves. What a statement road win for Dallas. 108-105, 1-0 lead for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka had 30-plus. Kyrie also in the 30-plus points scoring last night. Both of those guys were phenomenal. Luka turned it on late, and, he admitted in the post-game interview that the first 3 quarters weren't his best. However, fourth quarter, when it mattered, man, that was fun. Luka magic when he gets going, and Kyrie both. I've said it a million times. Like, don't count out Dallas. They have Kyrie. They have experience. They have championship experience, championship DNA, and Luka's right on the verge, man. He is right on the verge. Diesel, coming up in 40 minutes from now, South Carolina, LSU. How about that? How about that?
Can South Carolina keep the hot play going? That's the question. LSU is a big step up in competition from what they've been playing. So that's going to be tough, Cole.
Clemson baseball. Not the best day today. They lost 9-8 to the Hurricanes. They didn't have their windows boarded up properly, and they got that glass shattered in. They got that glass beat, right? They got beat up today. Did the Clemson Tigers. I'm glad you did. That's my one good joke of the year, right? So Clemson falls in game 1. They are, I guess, trying to look at the big picture and say we need the pitching later next week. Pacers Celtics game 2 tonight in Boston. The line has dropped a little bit from game 1. The Celtics favored by 8.5 in this one. I think it was like 9.5 or 10, 9.5 or 10 in game 1. I'm not advising anyone to gamble, but I would probably take Boston in the 8.5 tonight. I think they come out on fire tonight. And lastly, Diesel, that flag behind my head, Furman Paladins. They have announced today that they will be a part of the 2024 Las Vegas Showdown this November.
Ooh, what does that mean?
This I think it's a 4-team or 6-team tournament.
Basketball tournament?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. And they're going to be part of it. So they're going to be shooting some hoops out in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas.
Awesome. Cole, just to quickly get everybody caught up on some of the baseball scores here in the state. Charleston Southern top Presbyterian today in the Big South tournament 5-4. Looking around to see if anybody else here in the state of South Carolina. Coastal Carolina took a loss today 6-3 to Appalachian State in the Sun Belt tournament. And again, you said Clemson lost 8-7 to Miami.
Yep.
When we come back, Cole, it's time for you and I to disagree, as we often do each and every day on this show. You and I have to take opposite sides of an argument. The question is, who is better at convincing the crowd, the Tolos of our side? The 5 o'clock fight comes up next here on the Fan Upstate. Live update. The Braves win. The Braves win 3-0 over the Cubbies. Braves improved to 29-18 on the season. The Cubs 27-24. So they're a really good baseball team as well. It's always good to get a win against the Cubs, especially at their house.
2 wins in a row for the Bravos.
One more, Cole, and
it's a winning
streak. Called a winning streak.
However, the Braves aren't in winning streak form right now. Sorry.
It has happened before. Cole, it is time right now for you and I to just flat out disagree. It's time for you and I to fight it out every day at this time at 5 o'clock. We pick 3 different topics. Sometimes it's sports, sometimes it's not. And we fight it out. So let's get into it. Cole and I fight about it. You, the Tolos, tell us who wins by texting in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can also send us a message on our live video stream. That's up on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Just search for the Fan Upstate. Do us a favor if you do go find us on one of those platforms. Hit the follow button. Hit the subscribe button. Whatever you see there, jump aboard, man. We want you here each and every day. You Tolos, you turn it on and you leave it on. So, Cole, let's get into it.
Let's
Round
fight.
number 1. I asked this question because it actually happened in real life, Cole.
Uh-oh.
If a foul ball or a home run spills your beer, your nachos, your drink, your mini helmet filled with ice cream, whatever it is, should the team buy you new concessions? So in Tuesday night's Rangers-Phillies game, a Phillies fan had their entire plate of nachos explode in her lap when a Corey Seager home run slammed right into her questionably Mexican snack. Should the stadium replace her food?
Questionably Mexican snack. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, let's be real. It's not even close to Mexican cheese.
Sure.
It's not even
but
close.
It's still good cheese, right?
No, it's not.
Yes,
it's
it is.
awful.
Yes.
Stadium nachos suck.
No, Diesel, don't be that guy.
They suck.
So I'll answer your question by saying, listen, man, as expensive as those freaking concessions are, as expensive as the food and the drinks are, as much money as you pay, you're darn right they better pay for them. I get that you're at a game and things happen, but think about it, Diesel. If you have a slice of pizza, nachos, and a drink, you're looking at easily $25 right there. And you know what? I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think that there should be somebody that says, look, your food, your concessions,
you want concession insurance? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I want some concession. I want some food insurance. Your junk's now in the floor, so we're gonna take care of it on us. However, we prefer you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, whoever you are, we prefer you to eat your new food in the concession area or somewhere standing up, because we don't have to buy it again. But one-time thing, yeah, we'll do it.
The answer is no, Cole. She's sitting in a splash zone. She's sitting in the outfield wall. So she is sitting front row in the outfield. The ball was questionable as to whether it was a home run or not. And they joked about it, Cole. They said, go find the ball. If the ball has cheese on it, then it was clearly a home run because it had to get over the wall and hit her nachos. But if it didn't have cheese on it, then no, it was off the top of the wall and it's a double. No, she shouldn't get any free food for this, Cole. She's sitting in a splash zone. It's her job to keep her head on a swivel. Everybody knows if you're sitting in key areas like the outfield where home runs are likely, you got to keep your head up. Sweetheart,
keep your head up.
Sweetheart, I know you spent $12 on those nachos, but you can't keep your head down. You got to look up. There you go. By the way, JD asks, did you see the girl with the goose egg from the Blue Jays 110-mile-an-hour fastball? Dear God, JD, that girl's face was effed up. Have you seen
bad,
this?
Yeah.
It was bad. It was rough to look at.
That's different level, right?
There you go. Cole, let's keep it moving. Round 2.
Round 2, fight.
This is another one that's splitting hairs, Cole. vinegar-based barbecue sauce or mustard-based barbecue sauce? Which is better?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll start off by saying you're right. I know you love hearing that, but you're right in terms of it being splitting hairs here. There's no such thing as bad barbecue sauce, at least to my knowledge. So I'll have to go on the mustard barbecue-based sauce. We live in South Carolina. This is mustard country. In fact, I had a barbecue sandwich that was phenomenal today for lunch with the mustard style sauce. It makes it just even better. Vinegar sauce, keep that crap up north, man.
Cole, I'm a North Carolinian, born and bred, and vinegar-based sauce is what I know and love. You go to any barbecue joint, Cole, look at the array of sauces they make available to you. Almost all of them are vinegar-based sauces, right? And then there's like one mustard sauce way down at the end. It's dry. The tip is a little crusty because nobody uses it enough. It's not that good. Vinegar-based sauce is superior.
Come on, Diesel. Come on.
But you spent some time in Texas. What's that? That's like molasses-based, right?
Yeah, and they don't use a lot of sauce like we do. Like
they're more dry rub.
They're more dry rub. Pork's a thing there.
Well, it's because it's so hot down there. Your wet sauce turns into dust. It evaporates in no time.
That's a fact. You know how like with pork here, we put a lot of sauce on it, and we eat pork mostly here. When we say barbecue here, that's what we mean pork, right? Yeah. For the most part. They eat pork there, like the big barbecue restaurants sell pork in Texas, but they're the brisket. You know, they're the brisket people.
Maybe that's a 5:00 fight.
What's that?
What's the superior barbecue, pork or brisket?
I don't know that we'd disagree on that one. I don't know that we'd disagree. I don't know that we would.
All right, I'm already taking it on the chin to Spur Daddy, but whatever. Maybe I can get you on the final one, Spur Daddy. Let's go with our final round.
Final round. Fight.
Cole, do you shower in the morning or in the evening?
This one's going to be great. Diesel, I know your answer because I did see your answer on the cheat sheet. I do not. Let me back up. I very rarely shower in the evening.
Ew.
I am a morning guy.
Ew.
As soon as I wake up, there's no such thing as being able to get up and go do your day, go do your thing without taking a shower. To me, I don't feel right. It feels weird. Definitely shower in the morning superior.
What kind of dirty bird climbs into a bed all sweaty from your day? And if you do that, Cole, how often are you changing your sheets? Because if you're climbing into the bed dirty and you're not changing your sheets like every 2 days.
2 days?
then your bed is filthy, man. You got to shower at night. You wash the day off and you get into the bed clean. Now, if you want to take yourself a little morning spritz to wake up, that's fine. I got no issue with that. But we're talking about showering, like cleaning yourself. You got to do that at night because if you don't, your bed is filthy.
So do you have an issue with 2 showers a day?
No.
See, I kind of like that's a little much.
Hey, if you take a morning shower to wake up, it needs to be quick. Like 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops.
Now, I get it for people who are like, let's say, for example, landscapers, right? Who are going to be outside all day. You got to shower a lot. I get it. But I'm
you better buy stock in Axe body spray.
That too. JD on the stream, Diesel says, oh, good God, with kids, I shower whenever I can. And Cole's answer is never because he breezes his shirts. By the way, I hadn't done that in a while. I'm getting better.
We've all done that, Cole.
Yeah.
We've all done that. You're still in your 20s. I did that in my 20s. It's like a 20s thing. I don't know what it is. You're like, no one's going to know. I could just Febreze this, wear it again. It's going to be fine. All right, let's wrap this thing up, Cole. Let's give our Tolos a chance to think about our three different fights and our answers and decide who wins and text in their results.
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
We will fight about anything you want us to fight about. Again, send me an email, diesel at thefanupstate.com. Put the word fight in the subject line of your email. But to recap for you Tolos who may still be on the fence on some of these, fight number 1, if a foul ball or a home run spills your concessions at a game, should the stadium replace your concessions? Cole says yes, I say no. Fight number 2, vinegar-based sauce or mustard-based sauce. Cole says mustard. I say vinegar. I think, Cole, it's just it's a product of where you come from. It's product, and you're wrong, first of all.
No.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Me wrong?
Round number 3, do you shower to clean yourself in the morning or in the evening? Cole showers in the morning, which is gross. That means he's gone to bed filthy. I shower in the evening to clean myself off, and I get into bed clean. What do you think? What do you Tolos think? Send us your results, your fight results round by round by texting into the show, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can also send us a message on the video stream.
All right. On the stream, Madcraft says Cole round 1, especially if it spills my $14 beer on the stream, says Madcraft. Spur Daddy says Cole round 1. JD says Cole round 1. Spur Daddy Cole round 2. Let's scroll down. Oh, Spur Daddy does go Diesel round 3. Spur Daddy does agree with you on the shower.
I avoid the sweep. All right.
You did avoid the sweep. Madcraft says Cole round 1, Cole round 2, Diesel round 3. So Mad and Spur Daddy both agree with your shower take. And you know what, man? Again, I'm not against the showers in the evening, but I'm just not an evening shower guy. I'm really not. I'm too tired, man. At night, I get home, I'm ready to pass out.
Dude, I shower at night and I am exhausted. I'm standing there, eyes closed, can't think straight. But I know I couldn't sleep, Cole, if I was still sweaty from my day. There's no way I'm climbing into a bed without showering. Not happening.
So let me ask you this: if you shower at night, you then put on clean clothes, I would imagine. The next day, are those clean clothes still clean or no?
Well, I shower right before bed, so I don't need to put clean clothes on.
Oh!
Yeah, I don't shower when I get home from work. Because let's be real, like, Cole, this ain't work. This ain't work. We're sitting here in a nice, cushy, air-conditioned room.
Yeah, we're dressed up today.
We're dressed up. We're not working.
Yesterday,
hard.
I wasn't dressed up, but.
Yeah, so, like, you don't need to shower immediately when you get home from this, but then you shower before you go to bed. And, you know.
So, I will
sorry for the visual, guys, but after the shower, I walk to the bed naked.
I will play spoiler.
My diesel dangling. You know what I'm saying?
TMI. I will play spoiler. There are days, and one of those days was this week, where I, with my other occupation, I was dirty and I did shower at night. So it happens very rarely, but I do not want to, go to bed
rarely
with dirt and stuff.
Man,
JD says,
what do you do if you got a date that night?
Oh, you shower.
You shower.
Yeah. 100%.
So you'll get clean for your date, but you won't get clean for your bed.
Correct. That's exactly right. JD says Cole sweats at night in the bed when he sleeps. Of course I sweat. I mean, what guy doesn't sweat?
Okay, so here's a real question, Cole. This could be a big time 5 o'clock fight. What is the appropriate temperature to set your air conditioning to at night?
This time of year or
this time of year?
So I love, as you know, working with me, I love the cold, right? I love being cold. I'm around 67.
Yeah, that's right. I know people, Cole, who leave their AC at like 62.
That's a little. Their power bill's got to be
crazy
ungodly.
Power bill, right?
See, I can't do that. I cannot do that. Now, here's my issue. If you get to talking about inside your house, if you get to 70, no go. No,
anything over 70. There was a commercial I saw the other day, Cole. It was about saving power in your home. And the whole, these commercials are fake, right? But the whole family is walking up to the thermostat and like turning the Nest thermostat together.
Sure.
And they crank that thing to 78.
What?
No way in hell. I don't even put it at 78, Cole, if we're on vacation.
Wow.
Right? Like we got animals that stay in the house.
Yeah.
78.
What
the hell?
That's I get the whole power bill thing. Really, I do. But like, I would rather pay a little extra diesel and be like cool at night. Especially, I cannot stand going to bed hot. Like I can't do it. That's the worst feeling in the world. Like when you go on a trip. So it's good to have those air conditioned. Like I'll tell you what, my company did one of these this week. Installed the thermostats that you can control from your phone.
Yeah.
So you can set a schedule, right? So let's say you leave for work, it goes up to 70 to save a little power.
Sure.
But then at 5 o'clock, you can schedule it to when you're getting home, knocked back down to 67, 68. That does save a little money.
Texter here says round 1, Diesel. Says keep your head up. Round 2 goes to Cole, mustard all the way. Round 3 goes to Cole. Morning showers get you going, but Diesel sweeps because what?
What did he say?
I'm trying to decipher this.
Wait a minute, you got a sweep today?
Yeah, this comes from Wyatt. Oh, he says because Cole sided with the baseball chick. That's nonsense. You're at the park. Got to stay aware. So Wyatt agreed with you on the mustard sauce, and then he agreed with you on the morning showers.
Thanks, Wyatt.
But he said because you sided with the person whose concessions were demolished by a baseball.
Yeah,
that you lose all of them.
Texter says I work construction. Can you imagine me taking a shower a hot day today? No, I get it. Listen, there's certain stipulations. I get it. Texter says, Cole, where'd you get your sandwich from? Talking about the barbecue sandwich on the mustard versus vinegar base. It was a barbecue restaurant in Spartanburg. They're not a sponsor, so I'm not going to give their name out, but it was in the Berg.
Here's my policy on that, Cole. I do like mustard-based sauce.
Sure.
Just not on barbecue. I eat mustard-based sauce when I get sausages. Hey, there's a place.
That's fine too.
There's a place down the road in Fountain Inn. You guys probably know where I'm talking about. Makes delicious brisket. I always put a vinegar-based sauce on my brisket.
Yeah.
But they make smoked sausages, like jalapeno sausages.
That's good.
And I always get the mustard sauce with that. You got to.
844 fan phone. It's the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Dale needs to comment on the thermostat. He says, I've got them all worked up. Dale, how am I wrong?
Well, first of all, here's the thing, okay? The thermostat, and I've even got my wife trained to this, but I know she ain't listening, so it's whatever. Okay?
Now we know you're
During the
lying,
summer-
Dale. You said you got your wife trained.
Oh, no, this is legit. Okay, so during the summer, we set it to 74.
Oh.
If we leave, it's at 78. Now, when it's outside, you're 90, and you're walking in that 74-degree house, it feels mighty comfy, okay? During the winter time, I drop the heat up to 64. Okay? If you're cold, kick on the fireplace or layer up.
Jeez. Dale, what kind of logic is
Dale,
that?
what does that save you? Like $2 on your power bill?
No, my electric's usually about maybe 140
Okay.
during the summer.
So 74 in the summer, Dale, that's where I push back. That's way too hot, man. That's too hot. I'm
Can't
sweating.
sleep in 74. You got to sleep naked on top of the bed at 74.
Outside.
Hey, now, who says I don't? But if there's a nice breeze, you can crack a window. The AC ain't going to kick on anyway.
Listen,
yeah, but when it's 86 degrees at night, cracking the window don't help.
No, but 74 feels a lot better than 86.
Dale, good stuff, man.
Dale,
Thanks for the call.
I gotta know, Dale, how did you train your wife on this? Did you slowly increase 1 degree at a time, like every couple of weeks, to get her used to it?
No, it came in that way because I'm the one that pays the bill.
There you go. Now the
She's
truth
gonna be a
comes
stay-at-home
out.
Mom, she's got to play by those rules.
Jeez.
Harrison Butker,
Come
thanks for
on.
calling into the show.
Thanks, Dale. That's great, man. That's a great call.
74.
Right there.
That's ridiculous.
74 is a little much for me. I'm I like to be very comfortable, and if I do get cold, that's why they make blankets. But I'm not going and saying during the summer I can leave it at 74.
No,
that's too much.
we've got a programmable thermostat also, and Cole, it never gets above 72. Never.
See, I think I don't know that mine. I can't tell you the last time mine's gotten above 70.
It's like 72 when I know I'm not going to be in the house. But like now, our jobs have shifted and changed and moved a little bit, and I haven't changed the schedule.
Yeah.
And so I'm still there when it bumps up to 72, and I don't like it. I always turn it back down.
It's a little warm, a little warm. Texter says house set at 68 during the summer, 65 during the winter. That comes from a friend of mine who texted me that 65 during the winter. That seems a little cool, does it not? Maybe not.
We got to find out from our ladies. Could you be trained in the same way that our previous caller Dale's wife is? Could you be trained?
He said she pays the bills.
I pay the bills. I decide what the temperature is.
Jeez. Great call, Dale. Great call. We appreciate it. But, man, I hope your wife doesn't have the rewind feature on the Odyssey app, brother. I really do. All right, coming up in the very next segment, I want to ask a question, Diesel. This question, it's been crossing my mind a lot lately, and we do cover this sport on this station more than we used to, right? We talk about it because our audience likes talking about it. The sport I'm talking about happens on Sundays, and it seems like there's a large majority of people who agree that these certain things could fix this sport. But why does the sport and those in charge of the sport not just listen to the fans? He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. this sport that I was talking about in the very last segment, as I teased coming to break, Diesel, I really, really do try, especially as a sports radio show host, as we are, I really do try to stay up to date and watch most sporting events, right? Whatever sporting event it may be. But the one thing that I can't figure out, the one thing that's continuing to stump me, Diesel, is when it comes to NASCAR, why does it seem like if you listen to podcasts and you talk to people who are NASCAR fans, why does it seem as if, for the most part, everyone, like the fans, the former drivers, everyone has the same opinion on what to do to make the sport better. But for whatever reason, it's like those people, that group of people that want to make the sport of NASCAR better. And like I said, they usually all agree. And a lot of those people are former drivers themselves. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, Diesel, that group of people live on a different planet than the people who are in charge of NASCAR. So my big problem, and I guess my big question is, to you, to our Tolos, our listeners, 71307, start your text with the word fan. Phone lines open as well, 844-FAN-PHONE. Why is it so hard to, listen to what people are saying? Because NASCAR tinkers and tinkers and tinkers and tinkers all the time. Why does it seem like they're tinkering, but they're not tinkering in the direction people want them to be?
Yeah, so this has been one of my this is the number one reason why NASCAR lost me as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't understand the rules of the game anymore. It is completely different. It used to be very simple, right? When I was growing up watching NASCAR, it was very, very simple. You went out there, you ran your 200 laps. If you finish first, you get the most number of points. If you finish second, you get the second most number of points. You didn't have this stages. You earn points for winning this stage. You earn points for winning that stage. They have overcomplicated the way they even assign points, Cole. And then they've said, well, if you win a race, you're not a shoe-in to make the playoff. First of all, now there's a playoff. But if you win a race, you're almost guaranteed to get into the playoff. Well, what if you just win one race and you suck for the rest of the year? The chances of that are unlikely. I understand that. But what if you just, blind squirrel find a nut and you make the playoff because you had one great race early in the season and you've done nothing else since? So they've overcomplicated this sport to the point where traditional fans don't recognize it. And NASCAR is a sport heavily based in tradition. It's much like baseball in that way. The fans who love baseball, they don't really want to see it change much. They don't like the larger bases. They don't like the pitch clock. They don't like a lot of the things that we've seen happen with baseball. And a lot of old school NASCAR fans don't like what's happening in the sport. So, but I wonder, from NASCAR's perspective, would changing the rules back to what they used to be, to them, is that essentially admitting defeat? It's admitting that our interests in tinkering with the sport didn't work, so we have to go back to the way that it used to be?
I don't think so. I just think the problem has been, how when you go to the doctor's office and I don't know what kind of checkup you're getting, but you're a young kid and he gets a little hammer out and he hammers on your knee. And every time he hammers on your knee, what happens? Your leg kicks up in the air, right? It's almost like NASCAR is that doctor. NASCAR, they make so many rule changes, and I get it. There's no off season. There's no testing season. There's not a 6 to 8 month period where they can test things. But, when it comes to stages, I know a lot of people like restarts. The biggest thing that I've heard is people don't like to see the same driver lead the entire race, right? What happened Sunday night at the All-Star race with Joey Logano? He led 199 out of 200 laps. So when you talk about stages, people will tell you, well, that's the reason for the stages, is because they don't like seeing the same guy. They do like the restarts. The restarts do provide a little bit of shakeup in the field, right? However, the bigger issues for me, and I guess the bigger questions are the tinkering and the changing, the evolution of the next gen car, what is now the next gen car, how that's changed, how everyone's pretty much driving the same car. The tires, we saw last Sunday night at North Wilkesboro, NASCAR did a little more testing, a little more tinkering, and they had the soft tires versus the primary tires, and they had the entire field start on the soft set. But because of the wreck on lap 2, there were a lot of cars that took the pit and changed tires. So I understand that there's no off season. I understand that there's not time to test these things. Like, it is a unique sport, Diesel, in the sense of you have to test on the go. Like, you have to test while you're literally trying to perfect the sport. There is no time to test. So I understand that aspect of it. I just wish they would listen to the former drivers and the group of people that seem like they have a pulse on what needs to happen. For example, with the short track package cars, listen to the guys who are for the people and the people who want the sport to grow, like the Dell Juniors, who has a phenomenal podcast. There's just a lot going on, and there's so many things going on with the tinkering and with the tires and the cars. It just seems like, Diesel, to your point, it is hard to understand the rules, the sport, because there's so much going on at one time.
Yeah, and I remember a few weeks back, Cole, we were asking our guest, there had been a penalty in the box for somebody wearing the wrong kind of gloves. There was a driver who was penalized for wearing the wrong style of gloves out on the track. Really? That's where we are? That's where we are with the sport, that we're making the rules so convoluted that we're worried about what kind of gloves the driver is wearing. Really all that matters is, can he grip the steering wheel or not, right? That should be the safety concern. Can he get a good enough hold of the steering wheel? And Cole, I look at it in very simple terms. When was NASCAR its biggest? In the 80s and 90s. Granted, you had
early 2000s,
a whole different set of stars at the time. All of those stars are now out of the sport. But NASCAR has seen declining ratings year over year over year since the early 2000s. And it's no coincidence, Cole, that it coincides with a lot of these NASCAR changes. And it coincides with NASCAR forcing a lot of the sport's core audience outside of the Southeast, where NASCAR's core has always been. They're trying to expand their sport, as they should, right? That's their job, to expand the sport and try to make more money for the sport. But they're doing it by removing the traditional elements of the sport that made it popular in the first place. Think about a sport that you could fundamentally change. I mean, it's almost as if the NFL is doing the exact same thing right now. The NFL is taking football games away from the American audience, who have spent years and years, decades, putting their money and their passion into these teams where they are, and they're shipping the games overseas to try to build a following over there. And I'm curious, Cole, how it's going to affect the NFL in time. So NASCAR has got to figure out, who is it actually trying to attract? And how long is it going to take for them to realize that the audience that they're going after is just not that into them?
Spartanburg J on the text line says NASCAR died with DE3, but if they changed back and actually allowed rubbing, then maybe. That comes from Spartanburg J on the text line, 71307. Please start your text with the word fan. To me, it feels like there's a lot going on. To me, it feels like there's a lot of changes, a lot of tinkering. It does feel like, from the common fan, the average fan's perspective, it does feel like there's a lot going on in the sport that you kind of have to almost really, really follow it to understand it, Diesel. And I'm trying to do that. a couple of buddies of mine are really big NASCAR fans. I listen to them, and they obviously help me understand the sport better. But everything that's going on right now with the charters and you know, a lot of these companies and the questions going forward with the charters and what's going to happen with those guys and the tires and the new car. It doesn't seem like anybody likes the new car. And now we're testing all these different tires. We've seen the short track package not work. It just seems as if, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, texters, audience, Tolos, please let me know if you feel like I'm off on this, but it seems like NASCAR has become a sport, Diesel, that in order to follow it a little bit, you have to follow it a lot because there are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of changes. There are a lot of tinkering. If you casually watch one Sunday and you hear them talk about things like the soft tires and the primary tires and why they're, you know, making the field start with the with the soft tires before they can switch to primary tires, and you hear things about these charters and the team ownership and the new pack, you know, the short track package. It does seem a little bit overwhelming, and that goes to my point. Like, I don't know if it felt this way 20 years ago because there wasn't as much going on, right? It didn't feel like there were as many rule changes. I could be wrong, and that's why I'm allowing the audience to tell me if I'm wrong. It just doesn't seem like it was as involved 15, 20, 25 years ago as it is today. You really have to follow it intensely to follow it at all.
Yeah, and I understand that the France family is still involved in running NASCAR. I mean, the CEO is still Jim France. But Cole, it feels like this sport is being at least steered by executives who have no history rooted in the sport. Like, they're doing what the College Football Playoff Committee and whoever's running college football right now has done. They've convinced people that what they're watching isn't good enough, so they've got to tinker with it and change things and add a playoff and then expand the playoff and then expand the playoff again. And then they're convincing, we got to have a playoff within the playoff, and the G5 needs playoff, and they need this and they need that. I mean,
it's evolving, right?
It's evolving in front of our faces, and people don't like it. And, you know, again, I'm with you. I question, how much does Jim France need to see ratings of this sport fall off and revenues of this sport fall off? And I would assume they are because ratings are, but I don't know that for sure.
Nolan Ryan on the stream says you're wrong. Sounds like you're anti-NASCAR.
Where are we wrong?
Who? Me? Diesel? And that's what I asked a minute ago when I was talking about all of the tinkering and everything going on. Please call me, or, you know, call us out. Call the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolina Fan phone. Let us know, because that's what I'm asking. If you feel like I'm wrong, help me explain 15, 20, 25 years ago when NASCAR was in its prime. Did people have the same feeling then of, man, it's hard to even breathe when you try to follow this sport because there's so much going on with the rule changes and tinkering? That's where I want to know. Like, I'd have no problem with you telling me I'm wrong. That doesn't bother me, but tell me a little bit about why I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Nolan.
Cole, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the NCAA baseball tournaments. Get you caught up on scores, games, a couple games that have gone final. Clemson took it on the chin earlier today against Miami. South Carolina set to take the field, later on this evening? Is that right? We're going to talk about all of that coming up next here on the Fan Upstate 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and wherever you are on the free Odyssey app. College baseball tournaments going on, Cole, as we speak. Just the SEC tournament's better because it's got a better format.
I do like it. And
Yeah,
real quick, Diesel, sorry to interrupt. Before
Yep.
we get to that college baseball, I did want to get to this text. It is a very good text from the 354. Texter says, my dad used to race, and I used to sponsor cars with my business. That being said, I have been around racing most of my life, but greed through NASCAR success is what's caused its failing numbers. Interesting text.
That's true. And Cole, like for some fans, you may look at it as your favorite drivers are no longer in the sport. You may look at it as I don't recognize any of the businesses that are sponsoring cars anymore. Like we're all creatures of habit, right? We all want to look at the number 24 car and see a rainbow paint job.
We do. That'd be great.
Yeah, but that's not what we get anymore. We all want to look at the number 3 and see BF Goodrich with the black and silver. We all want to see that. And when you don't see that anymore, it just feels different, right? It feels like it's not for you anymore. Cole, to take a look at some of the college baseball scores that have already gone final this afternoon. Tennessee beat Texas A&M in the SEC tournament 7-4. They hit a late home run, Cole, that put them kind of out of reach for Texas A&M. Who else? Kentucky beat Arkansas, which I believe just eliminated Arkansas 9-6. Kentucky, the 2 seed, Arkansas, the 5 seed. Not in the SEC yet, but Oklahoma beat Kansas 7-5. Clemson lost to Miami 7-8. Let's see here. Coastal Carolina lost to Appalachian State. That final score was 6-3 in favor of the Mountaineers.
Coastal losing.
Sun Belt tournament. Let's see who else around here you guys care about. Charleston Southern beat Presbyterian 5-4 in the Big South. Cole, we got a couple of big games coming up later on this evening. We have South Carolina taking on LSU. That game, first pitch is at 6:10. So we are just about 20 minutes away from that game getting underway. In the Sun Belt tournament, Troy and Southern Miss will play. They actually have already started, but ESPN Plus does not have their score updated yet. Looking around, also some other scores going on live, Cole, as we speak. North Carolina has an 8-2 lead in the top of the ninth over Pittsburgh in the ACC tournament. East Carolina don't have the score there. It says here that they played earlier today at 1 o'clock. Don't know why they don't have the updated score there. James Madison, Louisiana today. Wofford, Western Carolina. That's today as well.
Nolan on the stream says South Carolina just pitched out at 5:30. Nolan, that is incorrect. South Carolina first pitch set for 6:10 p.m. Eastern. So they will pitch in first pitch probably in about 30 minutes, just depending. I'm looking now. We're watching the SEC network, and they are just now clearing out the stand. So a little bit of delay from the A&M Tennessee elimination game. Tennessee, a really good team, 7-4 over A&M, as you mentioned, Diesel, and we're seeing that live on SEC Network. So here's the bracket. Tennessee gets the loser of Mississippi State, and who's that say beside Mississippi State? Vanderbilt. That's correct. I couldn't read there for a second. I was struggling. Kentucky tomorrow will play the loser of South Carolina LSU. So game 13 winner goes to Saturday at 1, Diesel, and would play the game 11 winner, which game 11, I believe, is South Carolina LSU. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. So Kentucky and South Carolina could run back into each other. That I do like, as you mentioned, I do like the SEC bracket a lot better than the ACC bracket. These games actually matter. And, I don't know why the ACC does it like that. I really don't. But
maybe to protect some of their better players. Maybe it's to build in some other opportunities to rest your best pitchers. I mean, we heard audio earlier from Eric Bakich. If you still have that audio, Cole, we can replay it here.
I might have it.
But Eric Bakich talked about maybe saving some of his better arms for later on in this tournament or into regional play. So, if you're a Clemson fan, you certainly don't want to see your team losing right now. If you know that this team can be streaky at times and can take series losses late in the season when they should be winning. So I think, Cole, that's a dangerous game to play by not actively going out there and putting your best pitchers out there. That's a really tough strategy. But hey, again, who am I? We sit here and talk into a microphone for a living. We're not baseball coaches.
Here is what Eric Bakich had to say. I apologize for the quality of the audio not being the best, but here is Eric Bakich after Clemson's loss today.
Tough game for us. We gave it the big inning early with the 5 spot, and then pitched well for the most part out of the bullpen. I thought Lucas Malstad and Reed Garris did a nice job, gave us a chance, and we had plenty of opportunities to capitalize on some to score some additional runs, and just didn't get the job done. So tight game, but just one of those ones where a little bit of a lack of execution, whether it's making some mistake pitches with 2 strikes, hanging some pitches, and they did a good job hitting it, or us not capitalizing on scoring a runner from third or getting runners over. So we tip of the cap to Miami. They did what they needed to do to advance, and so it stings that we can't go through a loser's bracket and still do it. But we just good opportunity to just get focused on playing well. We know we have a lot of baseball left, but we're going to need to play a better brand of baseball, which we will. And our guys will respond, and we'll get a chance to do it tomorrow.
Okay, questions?
Here's a question by David Hood.
What went into the decision to start Ethan today, and kind of what are your plans for tomorrow?
The whole plan was to set up our pitching for next week. So Ethan's had a full week of rest from last Thursday, so that was the purpose for pitching him today, and he's been going first on weekends for us up to this point. So we'll evaluate that for next weekend. I don't know what our rotation will be next weekend, but the idea is that he would pitch the game that would get us to Saturday.
So that is Eric Bakich audio, and you hear him say, "Look, our concerns next week, pitching wise."
South Carolina will start today. Cole, Tyler Pitzer. He has a 4.66 ERA, 4.19 against the leadoff batter. He will face Thatcher Hurd, which is about as baseball name as you could possibly have, right? Thatcher Hurd.
Frat boy name.
He has a 6.49 ERA with a 3.33 average against leadoff batters.
All right, coming up in the very next segment, we'll talk about the new video that surfaced with Scotty Scheffler. Was he in the right, or was he in the wrong? Well, you know, the old term, the old phrase, beam me up, Scotty. Well, they didn't want that to be realistic last weekend, but that's what happened. Scotty got beamed up by the 5-0 lights and thrown in the clink. And we asked the question, Diesel. We said, wait a minute. Is news going to come out that makes Scotty look innocent? Or is news going to come out that makes Scotty Scheffler, look worse? The good thing that Scotty had in his favor, Tolo pointed this out earlier on the stream. He's a good guy. Clean rap sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we all kind of felt like there's a chance things might get dropped. There's a chance the cop might have been in the wrong. And Diesel, as I started off the show by saying, what was the term used? If I'm not mistaken, last week when this news broke, the term was the officer was latched. I mean, latched onto the car. You and I saw the video today.
Yeah.
He didn't really look latched. Latched to me looks like, you know, you're riding a motor, you know, you're latched on. Scotty didn't really look like he had that cop latched on. You and I have both seen the video. Your thoughts on the video?
I don't see a single thing that even resembles what the arresting officer claimed happened. So the video that you sent me that we've seen, Cole, looks like it's security footage from a telephone pole, like a high mounted security camera that looks like it's every bit of 40 yards away from the incident, but it has a fairly clear dead on shot of what happened there. There looks to be, there was like a large vehicle parked kind of in front, sort of the our side of the incident. And we see Scotty's SUV come out of the lower right corner of the video. He is stopped by the police. The officer runs over to him, and it looks like he swings something at Scotty's window. So to me, it looks like, you know, he could have been like, you know, swinging his little orange cone light thing that they have to direct traffic. It looked like he could have been swinging a baton at him, trying to break Scotty Scheffler's window. We don't know exactly what was going on because, again, the footage is from pretty far away.
It is.
But we see Scotty's vehicle stay perfectly still. It does not move 1 inch sitting in that spot. The officer then looks like it appears that he's trying to pull Scotty out of the vehicle. He opens the car door, tries to pull Scotty out of the vehicle. And somehow, Cole, in all of this, the officer was latched onto the vehicle. There was the initial claim that he was dragged by Scotty Scheffler's vehicle.
Yeah.
And that he wound up with abrasions on his wrist.
And his pants were torn.
I did not see a single bit of that in this video.
I'm with you.
Unless we're meant to believe, Cole, that all of these things that we are now essentially making fun of and say didn't happen.
Yeah.
Happened off
camera.
Yeah. Happened behind that. It looked like a bus, right? It looked like there was a big, like a tour bus, like a Greyhound bus size bus sitting there. Unless all of that happened behind that from our vantage point, I didn't see a single thing that this officer says happened.
Nolan says, no, the cop was definitely in the wrong, completely in the wrong. If I was Scotty, I would consider suing if they don't drop the charges. I would too. I don't know if he will. I still think the charges are going to get dropped. If they go to trial, man, like, I'll say this. If that idiot who's representing Louisville PD, if they go to trial for this, Diesel, and I'm Scotty, I would sue the ever-loving daylights out of Louisville PD. Now, if we don't go to trial, charges drop, look, misunderstanding, we'll move on. Because that's what Scotty said. He said, I want everybody just a bit to move on from it.
You know who this cop needs to hire? He needs to hire Rusty Harden, the attorney that is defending Jaden Rashada, the attorney that represented represented Deshaun Watson, Roger Clemens, Adrian Peterson,
man.
Kyle Busch.
Hey, Scotty, don't scream. Call Akeem. All nines,
I swear to God,
baby.
You beat me to it. I swear to God, if you call 999 to 999,
Scotty, It's an easy number to remember. Texter says, Hurricane Jeff. How about those Hurricanes? They stunk all season. Decided to play some real ball in the tournament. Go Canes. Hurricane Jeff, we appreciate you listening. Diesel, I don't always side with against the law. I'm not always like against the law. I'm really not. However, you said it a couple of days ago. I believe last week when we started talking about this, you said that, there's a good chance that Scotty just picked the wrong cop to have the bad day with. And you know what? Like, you and I we've been around law enforcement. You and I have both been at big events, right? Whether it be a concert or a sporting event. And you and I both know that you go up and covering the concert or a sporting event, whatever it is, you go talk to 99% of the cops and they're going to be cool with you. They're going to talk to you, joke around with you, have no issue with you. But sadly, as you said last week, there is, and this is not, I don't want to make it sound like it's just a police thing. I can't say that word. There are plenty of a-holes that are in every profession. But every now and then you're going to get a cop that is going to be an a-hole that day. And there's a good chance, as you said, Scotty just picked the wrong cop to have a bad day with, and he picked the a-hole cop.
Nolan Wright on the stream says Scotty's lawyer said they will not settle. It either goes to trial or they drop the charges. I mean, it surprises me, Cole. I mean, it would surprise me if Scotty Scheffler does sue.
Yeah.
I mean, what is he going to say? What is the suit going to allege? That he was distracted from playing at the Valhalla tournament, so he only finished in 8th and won $750,000, and that he should have won. Because you can't argue if this hadn't happened, I would have won the tournament.
No, you can't argue that.
You can't argue that.
No, you can argue the cop was in the wrong, right?
Yeah.
You can argue the car in front of me I was told to follow by the other cop. You can argue a lot of things.
I think he would have more cause for damages if he was injured and it legitimately affected. I'm just picturing what would it be like if we saw Scotty Scheffler come out and do his press conference with a neck brace on.
Oh God.
And I'm saying that in a joking way, like a fake neck brace, right? Or a wrist brace or a cast or something like that. I mean, that doesn't seem like the kind of person that Scotty is. I'm betting that we're going to see Scotty Scheffler say, no harm, no foul. I just want to put this behind me and go play golf.
So ESPN senior writer Mark Skalbach, I think I said that right. I probably didn't. He did an article today, Diesel, on ESPN.com, and Mark in the article goes on to say that the Louisville Metro Police Department has taken corrective action against the police officer who arrested the number 1 golfer in the world.
How about it?
Because, why? He didn't activate his body cam during the incident outside the gate. This was what the police chief, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, they announced that on Thursday today. So during a news conference, the police chief said that Deputy Brian Gillis violated the department's standard operating procedures, Diesel, for body-worn cameras, which states that officers are required to maintain their BWC in a constant state of operational readiness. That means like all the time?
It's on all the time, yeah.
He goes on to say Detective Gillis did not have his BWC operational ready as required by our policy. He was performing a law enforcement action. And let me skip down. Detective Gillis says the police chief should have turned his body-worn camera on, but did not. His failure to do so is a violation of LMPD policy on uniform and equipments. Is that enough? Like, to me, that'd be enough to say, okay, let's just drop the freaking thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a procedural violation for the officer. I mean, I wouldn't say, just not even speaking here about the Scotty Scheffler incident, but in all incidents, I wouldn't say that you would let, if you caught a murderer red-handed, you wouldn't let him go because the cop wasn't wearing his body camera or didn't have his body camera turned on, right? So I don't think an officer not having their body camera on is not a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
But I mean, given the video surveillance evidence that we have that shows very little of what the original charges were being true.
Yeah.
And given the fact that the officer didn't have his body cam on to corroborate his initial
Side of the
story,
Yeah.
then I think you have no other choice but to drop the charges.
So here's what's interesting. The officer was reprimanded. Okay. They released 2 pieces of video footage from that fixed camera that you and I saw. In the video footage, it appeared to show Scheffler's SUV turning into the golf club entrance, prompting an officer to run toward the vehicle and strike it as it comes to a stop. Nothing about latching on there, right? Here is what's interesting, Diesel. Gillis, the officer, right? He had to fill out a form because he didn't wear his body cam. Here's what he said in the form. While directing traffic in front of Gate 1, the PGA personnel stopped a bus from entering Gate 1. I observed a vehicle traveling in the opposing lanes coming at me. I stopped the driver and advised him he could not proceed because of the bus. He demanded to be let in and proceeded forward against my directions. I was dragged and knocked down by the driver. I then proceeded to arrest the driver. Oh, come on. But where's the video footage that shows that?
That is a big, based on what we've seen, Cole, that is a huge load of BS.
That's
huge
crazy.
load of BS. I mean, it sounds like at the very, very least, he exaggerated a lot of his verbiage with how he described the situation. And then it also appears from the video footage that we've seen that he flat out lied about what actually occurred in said altercation.
This is nuts, man. An arraignment, by the way, is scheduled for 9 a.m. on June the 3rd. So Gillis was obviously transported to the hospital because of his pain and swelling and abrasions that Scotty caused.
If the pain, swelling, and abrasions were actually caused by him striking Scotty's SUV window, then that,
whose fault is that?
Now we're looking at serious, a much more serious offense on the officer's part of causing his own pain and abrasion and suffering.
It makes no sense.
And then lying and saying that a suspect was responsible for that.
You know, and I'm trying to put myself in the officer's position, Diesel. Is it now a pride thing? Like, is it now a pride thing for him that he just doesn't want to admit, you know, man, I screwed up. I was in the wrong. To me, it might be.
Texter says, Texter's words, not mine. Don't come after me, Greenville PD. If this dumbass cop goes to trial, he's going to get absolutely smoked and going to look like a clown show.
Thanks for the text, Texter. We appreciate
you.
We appreciate your strong opinion.
Hey, Cole, coming up next, we're going to hear a replay of our interview earlier in the show, an interview that we had with Chapel Fowler of the State newspaper. Follow him on Twitter at Chapel Fowler. He covers Clemson football, Clemson baseball. We talked about the baseball loss to Miami, about a new law that was just signed into effect in Columbia that changes how Clemson, South Carolina, and Coastal Carolina can behave with NIL. That's coming up next here on the Fan Upstate.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
The Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and
Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel.
just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate. Text us at 71307. This is Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel on the Fan.
Well, you know, the old term, the old phrase, beam me up, Scotty. Well, they didn't want that to be realistic. Clemson baseball with not the start they were looking for in the ACC tournament. As we mentioned just a few moments ago, Miami gets the best of the Tigers today. And to talk about that and a little bit more, want to bring in Chapel Fowler, first time joining us right here on Wire to Wire. He covers Clemson football and a lot more for the state newspaper. Chapel, number one, we appreciate you hopping on with us today. And not the best start. A little surprising, in my opinion, that Clemson goes down in game one.
Yeah, not exactly the performance you'd expect from the number 2 seed in that tournament versus an 11 seed. Maybe a little bit of flashback to what happened last year in the regional round, which is kind of a unexpected. How did that happen? How are you down 6-2 after 3 innings or whatever it was on that stage with what's ahead of you? Now, obviously, we have our interesting little pool play thing going on in this tournament, which everybody has opinions on. So there is one more functionally useless game for Clemson tomorrow. But when you think about that national seed line, tomorrow actually gets a lot more interesting. So, yeah, I mean, this loss alone has put them in a spot where, you'd rather win 14-0 than 10-0 against Louisville or something like that. I mean, it kind of puts you in an interesting spot with pitchers too, whoever you use. And, you're looking for the best result without trying to burn yourself too much before next weekend in Doug Kingsmore. But yeah, I mean, they put themselves in a little bit of a trickier position. They'll probably end up in the top 8 or right around there, depending on how some other things break. Georgia losing early is probably good for Clemson in that regard. But yeah, not exactly a performance totally befitting of a number 4, number 6 team in D1 baseball, whatever they were this week. But kind of emblematic of some of these struggles they've had down the stretch, finishing, I think, maybe just something like 2 or 3 games over 500 over the last 20 or so. I'm forgetting the specifics, but a little bit of a slump here for a team that is still really good.
Chapel Fowler of the state newspaper joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Chapel, thanks for jumping on with us for the first time. We had the audio. We played it in the last segment of the segment before that. Eric Bakich, kind of tips his hat and says, yeah, we were looking forward to next week's pitching rotational needs. We didn't throw our best pitcher out here to win this game. But with this, Clemson team being as streaky as it has been at times throughout the season, how would you look at, going 2 and out, affecting this team going forward into regional play?
Yeah, well, if you take a similar revenue sport example, it didn't certainly hurt the men's basketball team with the way they laid that stinker against Boston College and then did what they did, making the first Elite Eight in, 44 years. So maybe they need Brunell to talk to the baseball team like the golf team had him do last weekend. But yeah, I mean, and Eric said it in the presser, and I think he's right. You want to be playing your best ball, and regardless of how an 0-2 ACC tournament showing affects your seeding, it might not affect it at all. It'll affect it minimally at best. It could obviously affect the top 8 seed, which is huge, but that stuff doesn't particularly impact. That doesn't keep out of the tournament. But winning at least one of those games does a lot. You don't want to be going in as the team that's on that type of slump. That makes the 4 seed in your regional probably perk up a little bit more than they already are because they're traveling in from wherever as an auto bid with absolutely nothing to lose. And just that opportunity to knock off a team in its own regional. And I want to say Clemson has failed to advance out of its own regional something like, 4 or 5 times since their last College World Series appearance. it's kind of a concerning trend, and that's obviously one of the reasons Bakich is the coach right now and Monty Lee isn't. So I think for that alone, tomorrow's game is big. Pitching, obviously, like you mentioned, that's part of it. It's the pool play, I think, is popular with some coaches because it allows you to kind of manipulate your pitching and maybe not totally burn some of your best guys heading into the following week, which obviously, if you're not playing to get into the tournament, is far more important. But yeah, there's a lot more stakes for a game that doesn't totally matter tomorrow. So that makes it fun. It makes the pool play actually a little interesting with this wrinkle and this kind of, I don't know, what do they call it in Stranger Things, the upside down type of game we got tomorrow where both teams can't do anything besides play each other. There's no advancement. But there is some stuff to be gained.
Hey, Chappell, I want to ask you a very similar question to what I asked Don Munson just a couple of days ago about your video that you posted on Twitter with Jack Leggett. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And Clemson fans will be very candid that, for the most part, that whole Leggett deal really didn't end on the best terms with Clemson and Clemson fans. And as Don Munson told us, that Monty Lee, even though he gave him an open invitation to come back into the program, there was a little bit of, I don't want to call it beef, but there was something there between Jack Leggett. And I thought that was an incredible video that you put up a couple of days ago. And in your opinion, do you feel like that this is more of like a tribute to Jack, or do you feel like Jack actually adds value to this Clemson baseball staff?
Yeah, well, appreciate that. Thanks for reading and watching and getting that to Don, who I'm sure had a brilliant take about it, as he always does. Yeah, I mean, I think he definitely brings value. They wouldn't have him on the staff if he didn't. And I think just having a steady hand, a veteran presence in the room for so many situations, like you guys can probably think of a veteran guy in the radio sphere that, as giving you one little tiny tip along the way, or like, hey, don't do this, or hey, do that. That type of stuff can go a super long way. And especially for a game like college baseball, with how long the season is and everything that goes into that, and how many games you play and how many adjustments are already being made. Having a guy that's done it for so long, especially at that place specifically, is huge. But I think, and it's really, really simple. I think another part of it is, Jack really appreciates what this is. He knows that he's not, being hired to be the lead assistant, to bust his butt. Like, he's 70 years old. He understands. He lives in Greenville. He doesn't live in Clemson. He commutes down there every day. He understands that he's not being asked to be Bakich's number two. But I think just the simple fact that, Graham Neff reached out to him during the search, that Eric wanted him on his staff. You think a lot about layups in whatever field you're in. Like, what's a really easy way to make my fans happy or make somebody happy? Like a little tiny gesture like that. And for him, obviously, that meant a lot. And, if you're Clemson, you're certainly would be inclined to be on good terms with somebody like that, given everything he did for that baseball program, even though, as you mentioned, it was kind of a messier exit. And he would admit the teams that he had after that last World Series team in 2010 didn't totally meet their expectations. But, it's kind of a feel-good story all around. And I think him being inducted into the State Athletic Hall of Fame, that guy's not from South Carolina. He's from Vermont. Like, the reason he's in the State Athletic Hall of Fame is because of what he did for Clemson baseball, and the fact that he can stand up there and say thank you and proudly trumpet and rep Clemson, and they can feel that love and kind of get that publicity. I think that's a good outcome for everything. And like you said, a lot of credit there, smart credit to Bakich and Graham Neff, the athletic director, for making what is a pretty simple gesture in the grand scheme of things to him to get him back involved. But obviously, as you can tell from just hearing him speak about it, means so much to him.
Joined by Chappell Fowler of the State newspaper, covers Clemson. A special shout out there goes to the Clemson golf team, who won the Chapel Hill Regional, first regional championship in 20 years for a storied golf program. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years. But you mentioned it there. Jack Leggett inducted into the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame alongside Clemson golf great Lucas Glover, Marcus Lattimore as well. Not to impugn the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame, because they do a fantastic job. But who do you see as like a deserving candidate that hasn't quite gotten over the hump, hasn't quite gotten into that South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame, who you think might be the next one to go in?
Well, I know that I want to say they had something like a 1 or 2 year hiatus with COVID, and they're kind of back playing catch up with who they're getting in. So I think their class was 10 people this year, which was tied for the largest ever with some class in the 70s. So they've got a crazy backlog of people. And I know that's something they want to do, is get more people in, because they realize they're a little bit behind. You can probably Google, best football or basketball or whatever athletes in South Carolina and find 5 who aren't in there yet, just kind of because of that backlog. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but I will say the state of South Carolina produces more like NBA players randomly than I think any state like ever. Like, I swear to God, you look at like a random NBA roster and it feels like, over the last 20, 30, 40 years, and like someone on that team is from South Carolina. Like Clifford Ray, I didn't know Clifford Ray was from South Carolina. Ray Allen, sneaky South Carolina native. Kevin Garnett, sneaky South Carolina native. There's a lot of guys that, whether they transfer out, and that's another issue, and the thing that obviously the in-state programs don't want to happen, and they're trying to do a better job of preventing. But there's kind of a ridiculous list of former South Carolinians in the basketball world specifically, which I'm a huge fan of. I've been watching the playoffs like crazy. So I could probably get a basketball name for you if I looked, but I don't know off the top of my head. I know the qualification for how long you have to be kind of out of your sport is another thing that probably some people are on the cusp of. Sammy Watkins just got into the Clemson Hall of Fame because he just hit, I want to say their criteria is something like 10 years after you've exhausted your NCAA eligibility. So there's probably some people that are creeping up on it in that regard too. But yeah, pretty decorated class, as it always seems, and it just goes to show this state's got a lot, no matter what sport it's in.
Hey, Chappell, Diesel and I were talking about this before we brought you on, but we both wanted to hear from you on this article that went up a little bit earlier on your Twitter about the state of South Carolina having a new NIL law, what it means for Clemson, what it means for South Carolina, and for those listeners out there that are listening to the station that have not yet heard about this.
Yeah, for sure. So that is something that, as one of the co-sponsors described to me, was something that the big three, so Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, were kind of the impetus for. They were the ones who initially reached out to lawmakers about doing this. They were doing lobbying. Obviously, there was that big news-making visit where you had Dabo and Shane and both athletic directors and a few other people in the same room at the state capitol kind of testifying on behalf of this bill. I'm wondering when the last time both those football coaches as well as their ADs were in like the same room together for something other than a football game, even at the same location. That doesn't happen a lot. Those people have busy schedules. So I think that goes to show how much they wanted it. It's a little legalese, but kind of the gist of it is before the NCAA kind of ushered in NIL stuff within summer 2021, the writing was kind of on the wall that it was going to happen, that something was going to happen in that regard. So the state legislature made a bill that they thought was kind of like preemptive and would help streamline the process. They were anticipating the NCAA to be very strict in its guidance. The NCAA kind of just put out a 1-paragraph press release. So you guys remember there wasn't really much about here's how you do this, here's what to do, here's what not to do. And the term Wild West gets thrown around all the time about kind of what it became. So this is essentially the legislature found a way to suspend that law after just 1 year because everybody kind of realized, hey, this is actually preventing our schools from fully operating the way that other schools in other states are. So they temporarily suspended it through some kind of legal mechanism. And what just passed, or got signed into law by McMaster this week, is something that kind of formalizes and establishes a new law that's intentionally vague and broad in its wording about what schools can and can't do. They can have a lot more oversight now. They can look over contracts they used to only be able to look over for compliance reasons, and use their in-house legal team or somebody with experience in the field, to pull a young person aside and be like, hey, I know you're excited about this deal, but this is actually a bad deal. This is really predatory. There's this hidden clause about future earnings. This agent's going to get X% of whatever you earn if you sign this. Finding ways to prevent that. They can pitch deals. Imagine a situation where, let's say, South Carolina has somebody in their athletic department who's like cousins with, I don't know, the CEO of like a burger chain, and they just send them a text and say, hey, do you want to, do an NIL deal with our offensive line? They're playing really well this year. That's something that you couldn't do under state law in South Carolina before this, and that's something that a lot of other schools in other states, especially SEC schools, have been able to do just because they have either no laws governing this stuff or broader laws. So kind of the simplest way to say it is these schools are on a more level playing field with other schools in other states now. And it's funny that it kind of comes down to like we put a law in place, so we actually need to take that law back because the NCAA has given us like no guidance whatsoever. So it's still pretty murky, but obviously you could tell with the way the schools were pitching this and promoting this that they really wanted this, and they can kind of do a lot more for their athletes now in a lot of different ways. And it just creates a better product, better, smarter NIL operations mean that you get better deals for your players, and then all that adds up. And then you can be in a recruiting pitch and say, hey, by the way, our players have earned X amount in NIL last year. And maybe that's a big jump from what it was last year or the year before that because of what you can do to kind of help those players behind the scenes. So to just kind of loosen some things up, makes things a little bit easier from a compliance and legal perspective.
Chappell, that certainly seems like it hits close to home at exactly the right time, potentially for South Carolina athletes. We just spent a lot of time yesterday talking about this lawsuit between Jaden Rashada and some members there at Florida, which it seems as if having somebody at the school looking over your contract to see if it's fair or not could have potentially, staved off or avoided that situation. I want to ask one further question about that. I read your article today, and it was talking about schools being allowed to grant permission for an athlete to use its trademarks for an NIL deal. So does that mean, for example, that DJU would have been able to wear a Clemson shirt or something with a tiger paw on it in his Dr. Pepper commercials rather than just wearing an orange jersey?
Yeah, it would. And there was something in that initial law that passed kind of regarding that, but it was, again, kind of a detailed process, not incredibly streamlined. There were still some compliance issues. This kind of just clears the way for that. But yeah, that's a possibility now. The use of facilities is also part of it. It's very easy to now pop into your sports arena or court or whatever and use that as part of promotion, whether you're, hitting a few shots on the tennis court or shooting a few shots on the court. Clemson had built this state-of-the-art NIL facility that its athletes could use called the CAB, the CAB, what kind of houses in this football facility. And then they got clarification that, actually, by the way, like that stuff right now under NCAA guidance, that's a no-no unless it's accessible for the entire student population. So that kind of kills the purpose, right? So the schools have essentially been tiptoeing around a lot of this stuff. And this kind of makes it just a little bit easier on a state level. That doesn't mean the NCAA couldn't come out with some new sweeping guidance that changes everything again, because that's kind of what NIL has been so far. It's kind of, they put it out there without many rules or guidelines, and they've been kind of trying to rein it back in a lot of ways. So that could obviously change, but just on the very simple level of compliance and trademark and all this stuff, schools don't really have to act blind to the deals that they used to. They don't really have to tiptoe around everything, and that just kind of makes it a more efficient process.
Chappell, I think you might have just given me my favorite new oxymoron of the day, NCAA guidance, right? We've heard of military intelligence, now NCAA guidance, which means nothing because they have any kind of guidance and it gets struck down immediately, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, like, with all this guidance, and then at the same time, we're talking about that settlement and just a lot of ways how the NCAA is really powerless in so many regards. That it's really an athlete-driven operation now. So yeah, that guidance comes with an asterisk every single time.
Chappell, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on, and look forward to having you on again real soon.
Sure. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, that's Chappell Fowler of the State Newspaper. You can follow him on Twitter at Chappell Fowler. Great stuff. A lot to dive into with what he's. That is our interview replay from earlier in the program. I want to say thanks to Chappell for hopping on with us. It was our first time having him on. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Chappell Fowler. on Twitter, X, Twitter, whatever you call it, however you get there, whatever you call it, give him a follow there and let him know that you heard him on Wire to Wire. On the other side, I'll give you a South Carolina baseball live update.
Streaming on the free Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and you're wired to Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire.
On the Fan Upstate.
I'm Tony Desiri with your sports update on the Fan Upstate. Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves are playing this afternoon in Chicago, wrapping up their 3-game series with the Cubs, looking to take the rubber game after winning Wednesday 9-2. The Braves scored 6 runs in the 7th inning. Marcell Ozuna hit his 15th home run of the season. Max Fried with a complete game win, allowed just 3 hits over 9 innings. Atlanta will start a weekend series on Friday at PNC Park against the Pittsburgh Pirates. NASCAR running its longest race on the calendar Sunday night, the Coca-Cola 600 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Ryan Blaney, the defending champion. This will be 400 laps around the mile-and-a-half track. Kyle Larson is attempting the double, running the Indianapolis 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 on the same day. Tony Stewart is the only driver to complete all 1,100 miles. Download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on The Fan Upstate.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
Gamecocks, Panthers, Paladins, and Rebels. Punch your ticket to the best local stories. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app.
Upstate.
Set your alarms. Memorial Day doorbusters are here at Lowe's. Save big on a Master Forge 3-burner gas grill for just $99. Plus, save over $500 on a Whirlpool top-load laundry pair, now only $896. Beat the rush for these limited-time deals before they're gone. Because Lowe's knows summer savings. Valid through 5/27. Appliance offer valid on items 782472 and 670009. Price includes all discounts while supplies last.
Summer's just getting started, so fill your cooler with the smooth and refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. It tastes like real iced tea because it's made with real brewed tea. And with a 5% kick of alcohol, Twisted Tea is perfect for the beach, the lake, or wherever you're hanging out and day drinking with your friends. Look for the bright yellow cans. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Keep it twisted. Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
If you're looking for $500,000 to $1 million or more of affordable term life insurance, we're Term Provider, experts in finding affordable term life insurance for those that may not be in perfect health. Prostate cancer, heart conditions, high cholesterol, or on prescription medications, you may still qualify for $500,000 to $1 million or more of affordable term life insurance. Call Term Provider at 800-337-4168. 800-337-4168.
Tonight, partly cloudy and a low of 64.
Weather brought to you by USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable. Turn shipping to your advantage with USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service.
Your morning jolt of sports. It's the Rob Brown Show.
There's not enough of you complaining about it to make a change. When there's enough of you to make a change, then a change will probably happen.
A change will do you good. A change will do you. Cheryl Crow, right?
I believe it's Cheryl Crow. She who believes you should wipe with one square toilet paper.
One square? Who uses a square?
You don't remember that whole thing. Yes,
No.
One square. Save the planet. Use one square.
Listen.
When your butt's like this wide, maybe it's possible, but
Liberob, the
we're
woke
sturdy in here. It takes a little more than one.
Liberob, the woke warriors. Absolutely hashtag team save the planet. Absolutely hashtag team conservation. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, if you tell me I'm only allowed to use one square, I better move next to a river or something, because that ain't going to work. All right? That ain't going to work.
Is that Nature's Boudet?
Don't hit snooze, hit play. The Rob Brown Show, now morning 6 to 10 on The Fan.
The Fan Upstate.
Game on, gloves off. We aren't pulling any punches.
This is Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and...
Oh, man. Just a couple of feet away. I mean, a few feet away just now. South Carolina, I'm trying to see who that was, the batter. Oh, man, all the way to the warning track, all the way to the wall. Almost took a one-run lead, just a few feet short. Got a hold of it, though. LSU, South Carolina, bottom of the second inning. There are 2 outs. So South Carolina is trying to tie this game. LSU leads 1-0. There's a runner on first. And like I said, man, that's tough. South Carolina almost took the lead with a big swing right there. The outfielder for LSU had his back against the wall. And man, oh man, almost had a lead change. Final segment of the show. So glad to be with you. Diesel had a run. I am Cole Bryson taking you home on this Thursday edition, this Friday Eve. I want to remind you that tomorrow we will be joined by Shane Connick of the Charlotte Observer, as we are each and every Friday, to talk a little NASCAR, talk about what happened at the All-Star race, talk about what's happening this weekend. So go ahead and start thinking about what you want to ask Shane, as LaCroix is now at the plate for the Gamecocks. And let's see, did they LaCroix has an 0-2 count. So South Carolina has not tied the game up. It is still 1-0. I'm going to give you some daily wires, a little rundown. You call them highlights. We call them daily wires on this show. What happened last night? What's happening tonight? Quick announcement. Furman, if you're a Furman fan out there in the upstate, Furman announced earlier today that they will be a part of the 2024 Las Vegas Showdown in Las Vegas, Nevada this November. It is a basketball tournament that Furman will be a part of, so that's some really cool news. And there is your third out in the second. South Carolina leaves one runner stranded, goes down swinging, and the Tigers still have a 1-0 lead over the Yardcocks, if you will. Pacers-Celtics, game 2 tonight in Boston. Celtics are favored by 8.5. They were favored by 9-10, I believe, in the very first game. And, Indiana covered. Indiana covered and almost won the game. Indiana, if the coach would have done his job, in my opinion, Indiana would have won the game, but they didn't foul for whatever reason up 3. And Jaylen Brown did what Jaylen Brown does and hit a big three-pointer to tie the game. So we'll see if Indiana can steal game 2 in Boston tonight. I don't think they do. I think Boston wins tonight and covers the spread. I've always said that if you have a chance to go on the road and steal game 1, you got to take every advantage. You got to take advantage of every opportunity to do so, right? You can't not foul up 3. You can't allow Boston to dictate how that game ends, and that is exactly what Indiana did 2 nights ago. Clemson baseball, man, not a good day for them. They lost to Miami earlier today in the first game. It was an 8-7 victory. I misspoke earlier and said 9-8. I do apologize. It was an 8-7 victory. The number 3 Tigers fell at Truist Field earlier today to the Hurricanes, who are now 27-29. The Clemson Tigers dropped to 40-14. So that's the big topic right now. Eric Bakich, we had post-game audio just a few minutes ago. Eric Bakich said, "Hey, look, we're concerned about our pitching for next week." Mark Kingston right now is live on the SEC Network. He's doing a in-between inning interview. Let's hear what Mark Kingston, the South Carolina baseball coach, has to say.
Balance the emotion of these young guys when you play in the toughest conference in college baseball, and those things happen over the course of a season. How do How do you keep their spirits up and say, listen, no big deal, we're good?
Well, you just have to maintain a stable environment. You have to have a good disciplined environment where the guys know in this league there's ups and downs. And if you prepare for that before they ever happen, then you can handle it better. That's the bottom line. You know you're taking punches and throwing punches in this league. And if you just survive it, if you endure it, well, by the time you get to here, you're going to be a really good team, and we are.
That is a quick cutaway to a live interview with Mark Kingston talking about the grind of the SEC play. He said, we are. Those were his words. We are a really good team. So we'll see. We'll see if South Carolina can put 3 wins together. Still a lot of ball to play. This is now the top of the third inning. LSU leads South Carolina 1-0. Getting you caught up on some more daily wires. The Mavericks, they defeated the Timberwolves last night, 108-105 to take a 1-0 lead. Incredible performance by Luka. Incredible performance by Kyrie, both 30-plus last night. Big nights for those two guys. The Braves, they did win today. 3-0 was the final score. So the Bravos are winners of 2 straight games. As Diesel says, a third makes it a winning streak. So we'll see if they can continue to do that. Another piece of information that is quite fascinating. CBS Sports reported that former NC State star DJ Burns has dropped 45 pounds leading up to the NBA draft. He was 6'9", 275. He is now 6'9", 230. I mean, what on earth? 6'9", 275. And then just a few months later, he's 230 pounds. How do you lose 45 pounds that quick? That is unbelievable. 45 pounds in a few months? He starved to death? I mean, come on. That's crazy. Angel Reese, 2 more headlines for you. Angel Reese became a part owner of the Women's DC Power Football Club. The 22-year-old bought a piece of the new USL Super League team. Her stake has not been disclosed. And last Daily Wire for you, the Florida Panthers in hockey crushed the New York Rangers 3-0 in Game 1 last night. Those are the Daily Wires for today. Want to remind you that next week, you know what Monday is? Monday is Memorial Day. Memorial Day, I hate to break it to you, but Diesel and I will not be on the air Monday. We will honor those who lost their lives defending this country on Monday. We will not be on the air, so quick programming note, if you're looking for us, if you're out and about looking for us on Monday, you will not find us. However, we'll be back ready to go on Tuesday. Heck of a catch just made out in the outfield by one of the South Carolina, I think it was the right fielder, as it is top of the third. South Carolina trying to win 3 straight. If you just tuned in, Clemson did drop Game 1 today to Miami. I know there's a big debate about in these conference tournaments whether to, start the best pitchers and risk not having those guys later next week, or start your lesser pitchers today and save your best pitching for next week. And just like we heard from Eric Bakich earlier in the show, that is exactly what he did. He's saving his best pitching for next week. So we'll see if that comes out to be the right move. I'm not against it. The regionals are where you need your best pitchers. Everybody knows that, right? All right, let's see if South Carolina can come back and win this one. Still plenty of ball left to play. Diesel and I will be back tomorrow. See you, Tolos.
You're going wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
I'm the guy that never gets 5 stars because I never believe that anything is perfect. But I would give them 20 stars if I could.
Ernest's stellar review belongs to QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in regenerative treatments. They came through with badly needed relief relief for his aching knees, and doctors had told him that surgery was the only option.
What they're doing is cutting edge, and it really helps. And I'm a tough sell.
QC Kinetics is led by National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a pioneer in this field. With 20 years of clinical work, tons of research, teaching, publishing in non-surgical natural pain treatments. These are the medical pros to trust.
I'm living my life basically pain-free from what I was dealing with. So I'm a happy camper today, no doubt about it.
QC Kinetics. Call today to see if you're a candidate.
Call QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772. Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. Call or click today to find out if they could save you hundreds on your car insurance. While maybe championship or bust for the Lions, it's been a long time since the Pistons' last title, 20 years to be exact. They're hoping his next move will be the one to restore the glory. They're only set to hire Pelicans general manager.
Get in the game on the Rob Brown Show.
There's another NBA.
Hey, this is Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers. You're listening to the Fan Upstate.
Missed the final two games against Boston. Celtics, after disposing of the Cavaliers, look to go 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals before heading to Indiana. Boston took the series opener, rallying to win in overtime. And further you go in the playoffs.